This story begins with someone crying out for help while being devoured by insects. The girl who is our protagonist wishes only for death in this torturous moment. All she can feel is excruciating pain as she begs for death to take her. We then go back in time where someone tells the team leader to think for a moment. This is a dungeon no one knows about, and if they clear on their own, they'll be able to keep all the loot, something a girl also agrees with. Everyone there is a hunter, but the most they could earn is minimum wage, which wouldn't be enough for them. So the man says he agrees with them and that they will clear the place. But the protagonist says they shouldn't go in after all. After all, it could be dangerous until a hand rests on her shoulder, calling her name. He asks when they'll ever get a chance like this again. Everyone already agrees, so why is she hesitating? He questions if she's trying to embarrass him in front of the whole team, to which the young woman replies that it's not that. She's just thinking they could be bugs again. The blonde man gives an evil smile, asking if she's still afraid of insect-type monsters, reminding her not to forget the trouble she caused last time. If she really feels it's too much, then she can leave. They don't need a C-rank tank, but no other guild will take her in, to which she reluctantly agrees. He thinks she's finally come to her senses and just needs to trust and follow his lead, while the woman feels she's being selfish for embarrassing him. He then says he's her boyfriend, which is why he cares so much about her, and asks if she understands. Still scared, the young woman accepts it and thanks him for this clear perspective. After all, Hyun-chan is the only one who can love her like this. It's then announced they'll enter as quickly as possible, and since she's the tank, she needs to go first. She agrees awkwardly at that moment, not wanting to upset her boyfriend in any way. So we see everyone entering the calm visible in their eyes, while the protagonist looks terrified. But then a step is taken in the right spot and it triggers the start of the dungeon. Several insects are already there waiting for them at that exact moment. The spearman asks what that is, seeing so many of them in such a confined space. The monsters then all rush at them at once. They quickly start taking them down, saying they need to clear the place. They ask if she can hold the path. The mage says the girl has a hold of front line and make sure the monsters don't get through, which she understands immediately. Her strength is clear, but she's being pushed back due to the overwhelming number of monsters. In the end, she has to hold the line so the others can safely finish off the creatures. However, she ends up getting hurt by some strikes that slip through her defense. But in the end, Troy accepts that there can be no panic. They're almost there. We then see another creature screams as it's taken down. But now another swarm appears in front of them, and they question what they can do. The team leader is blinded and terrified by what he's witnessing while hearing that they need to act. Soon, the girl's defense begins to falter as she struggles. She can feel her whole body trembling and realizes she can't hold out much longer, wondering how much more she'll have to endure. She looks back and pleads for her boyfriend to heal her immediately, saying she can't last much longer, but she's shocked to see everyone fleeing at that moment. She wonders why this is happening. They're practically abandoning her to the very creatures she fears most. The tank then calls out to her boyfriend, who, irritated, says he told her to hold the line no matter what. We then see the creature advancing, starting to break her shield with extremely powerful blows. With that, she drops her defense, calling out to her boyfriend and begging him not to go. Another woman with blue hair tries to say their friend is still in there, but is told in frustration that there's nothing they can do. The door soon shuts, leaving the young woman on that side forever. She then starts banging desperately, begging and pleading for her boyfriend to open the door. She manages to hear a conversation inside, questioning whether to leave her there, and someone says no one cares. If they open the door, everyone will die, and Choi must understand and accept that. We then see the creatures charging at her, screaming with raw adrenaline, ready to devour her. She turns to the side saying she can't accept the situation, desperation clear in her voice. She then faces the forest, this dungeon-like landscape. She begins to run desperately in that direction, all the while thinking she must focus on surviving no matter what, because as long as she's alive, her boyfriend might come back for her. But then something catches her attention, and her eyes widen. A massive dead creature lies with a tree growing around it and something embedded in its chest. We then see a hand approaching her as she wonders what is happening. Soon, the trunk comes close enough, extending something in her direction. She realizes it's a ring now in her possession. Koi puts the ring on, thinking it might be a secret item. As soon as she wears it, the gem shines in a new way. Suddenly, a system window opens in front of her all at once. It reveals that the item is an X-rank parasite ring, and according to the information, it will influence her growth, life, and even regenerate her. In the end, it says she cannot die until the incubation is complete. Confused, the girl stretches her hand forward, wondering what this thing is. Then she asks herself in desperation how she's supposed to use it, but a scream quickly comes in her direction at that exact moment. Creatures leap at her in an ambush. The girl then calls out for help from anyone who can save her from this fate. At that moment, we return to the initial scene where she is being devoured by the creatures, trembling in fear. Through tears, the heroine says it hurts too much as she pleads for the pain to stop. Her hand falls to the ground, signaling her death, still begging for help. But the parasite ring starts to glow green, and it's made clear she cannot die until incubation is complete. She is then revived at that exact moment like some kind of zombie. Troy sits up, visibly confused and gasping. Looking at her hand, she wonders what is going on. She has no idea what just happened, but something quickly grabs her attention, and she looks ahead again. All the insects now realize this is the perfect chance for a delicious meal. The girl, on the other hand, screams and tries to escape as fast as she can. However, she is quickly struck by a creature that pierces her back. All of them close in to enjoy the endless feast. If she cannot die until the incubation ends, the young woman keeps begging for help, not wanting to keep dying. But again, she is attacked and this time taken out completely. Her legs are the first target as she begs them to stop devouring her. All she can do is scream her boyfriend's name, pleading to be saved from this wretched fate. But it's the creature who answers like a hallucination, saying there's no escape. Her pupils dilate as she continues begging for this not to happen. And so she is eliminated once more in that moment. We see that this cycle repeated over and over, perhaps for years or even centuries. She wonders how long she's been stuck there up to now. Maybe it's been years or decades. She can't tell anymore. So she questions why she's still alive. Now she's trapped there, living forever as monster food. But as she looks behind her, she clearly sees the sword lying next to her. It was a gift from her boyfriend, a cheap birthday present. But now her mindset has completely changed. After so many years of suffering, that man left her behind even as she begged him not to enter that place. Still, he pushed her in because of an item that shouldn't even have been there, what turned out to be a living hell where she was repeatedly devoured. Now gaining some self-respect, she declares she'll kill him no matter what, gripping the sword. She charges at the creatures, eliminating them with terrifying speed. Suddenly, the system appears, increasing her power by 2, which completely catches her off guard in that exact moment. The creatures scream as they rush toward her after having taken down one of her companions. She notices her stats are increasing at a terrifying and incredibly fast rate. Now she's able to eliminate all the creatures without any difficulty as her strength suddenly and continuously surges. The wounds on her body begin to regenerate instantly, making her laugh in that moment. She finally understands how to use the item she acquired. With her mind completely shattered, the girl lets out a psychotic laugh. She then calls for them to come at her, saying she'll kill every last one of them. She calls out to her boyfriend, saying she'll be out of there soon, while complimenting how cute he is. Then she asks him to wait just a little longer, and she'll soon reach him. After so much time, we see the chaos left behind at that very moment. The girl, eyes glowing red, charges at the insects, cutting them down with extreme force until suddenly, something attacks from behind, piercing her abdomen. One of the mantises managed to strike her from behind, making her entire body tremble. However, the ring kept her alive in that moment, though she could still feel the pain of every injury. She then turned around and killed it instantly, cursing at the creature. The insect's upper body fell to the ground with no sign of life, and the protagonist felt that it really did hurt, even pierced her clean through. But that didn't matter. She was still fine, while the other creatures watched her from a distance. Quickly, she orders those bastards to come at her as she regenerates in a single burst. However, it's clear the insects are hesitating, held back by some primal fear. The girl, like a crazy zombie, taunts them by questioning why they're not coming. Her words enrage them, and they charge at her. She then mutilates them, slicing them into pieces effortlessly. She's in ecstasy at that moment. It's incredibly fun to feel the thrill of growing stronger. She crouches down saying she wants to kill more and more no matter what. Then she leaps to an incomprehensible height for someone of her size. She prepares a punch and yells for them to die. Then she slams the ground, eliminating the creatures around her with a shockwave strike. We then see a huge mountain of insects pile up at that moment. She cleared the dungeon after 72 years. She sighs heavily, not seeming particularly happy, and she looks forward with a murderous glare as it's announced she has been promoted to rank A. The protagonist quickly wonders if it's finally over after all this time. Then a smile appears on her face as she wonders how they've been after all this time. We then see one of the creatures quitting as its life fades away. The girl stomps on it mercilessly. With an extremely psychotic tone, she questions whether she should tear them apart just like they did to her mind. Next, we see the other side of the door where someone asks how they managed to trap the girl inside and close the door. In the end, the leader was her boyfriend, and yet he led the team to abandon her. The man claims they would have all died and that they survived because of her. So why is she still arguing? Then the spearman steps in, trying to calm things down, saying that those who survive are the ones most likely to keep living. Another woman states that while they might have been rank C, they weren't weaker than the protagonist. That's when the girl gets furious. They're basically saying higher ranks are stronger, and she can't stand being around them anymore. Once they get out of there, she swears she'll expose everything they've done. The redhead quickly asks what would happen if someone died in a dungeon right now. But the team leader gives a classic manipulator smile, almost looking like he feels sorry. He then steps closer and calls out to Nara. He asks what will happen if they leave her behind next time. After all, a C rank can't survive in a B rank dungeon alone in the end. He places a hand on her shoulder, asking what she's so afraid of anyway. He's just telling the truth. They're going to leave calmly, and nothing bad will happen. And honestly, Choi just fell behind. It wasn't his fault, but he's suddenly interrupted as the door explodes all at once right in front of them. The leader and his companion are startled by what just happened before their eyes. The girl questions how it's possible that everyone remains the same after 72 years have passed. Then brushing her hair back and revealing her beauty, she asks how long it's been since they last saw each other. The leader is confused as it makes no sense that Hyun Choi could have gotten out of there. He wonders what this nonsense is that she's saying, but there's something more important to focus on. After all, he doesn't understand how she could have survived in such a dangerous place. The girl quickly tries to call for her friend, but is interrupted by the leader stepping in front of her. He suddenly embraces her, seeming genuinely happy to see her alive. Then he begins to apologize, saying he couldn't save her. However, he insists he had no choice. It was for everyone's good in the end. The girl says he knew that already, affirming that she understands, which surprises the blonde leader with his own foolishness. He then gives her a confident smile thanking her and saying she's really kind after all, but that he meets her empty stare as if looking directly into the abyss manifested in human form. Hyun Chan is visibly shaken for a moment, a clear confusion on his face. And now that he stops to think, all her clothes are completely worn out, yet she has no wounds at all. Even insect bites should have torn off some skin. The man realizes something strange is going on, and it leaves him even more confused. Suddenly, a hand lands on our protagonist's shoulder without warning. It's the Lancer thanking her for understanding, saying it's a huge relief that she's back and alive. Now they can hunt the boss of this area together again. She gives a cheerful smile, asking if they really waited for her all this time. She then thanks them, confusing the leader even more as he wonders if he's just being overly insensitive. They're told to move as quickly as possible. After all, his heart still feels heavy for not helping her before. But the leader of this team knows something's definitely wrong, so he ends up questioning himself, wondering if it's just his imagination playing tricks on him. We then see a forest nearby that location. Birds are fleeing from something deep within the woods, and then we see a massive paw stepping down on one of the trees. It belongs to an impressive C-rank deer, the boss of this area. The team leader watches it from a distance, realizing the situation might get difficult. He tells everyone to be ready for what's coming. They'll do what they've always done. The protagonist will draw it in while the rest focus on attacking at the right moment. The leader tells his girlfriend to stay alert to everything happening around her, and she is said to instantly understand. With a smile, he says now that everything is planned, they can begin positioning. However, the protagonist suddenly leaps in that direction, holding her shield in front of her. The Lancer wonders what she's doing, charging ahead on her own like that. Then the shield is placed on the ground at that very moment to activate a skill. It's the so-called roar, which has the property of attracting any nearby creature. But the wave of this skill reaches so far that even the trees tremble from the immense aura being released. The deer quickly notices and turns its attention to our protagonist. With a scream full of murderous intent, the monster prepares itself. The leader questions why the effect is spreading so far. She seems completely unhinged right now. Everyone starts running, yelling to get behind Hyun Choi as fast as they can. The creature begins charging with its heavy antlers straight toward the girl. They all say it's fine. This is just a B-rank dungeon boss, so there shouldn't be any real problem. But the protagonist seems exhilarated at that moment, as if she's planning something. The leader says as long as Hyun Choi holds the front, they'll be okay. However, the girl suddenly leaps aside at that moment, getting out of the monster's path. Her boyfriend watches in shock at the height she reached, and the Lancer wonders if she really fled from the spot, then questions why she did that just as he hears heavy footsteps approaching. He then wonders if he should do the same, but time runs out at that moment. The creature is already just a few meters away from him, pierces his chest with its massive horns. The women watch in disbelief at how effortlessly it happened. Meanwhile, the mage is even more terrified, staring the protagonist at that exact moment. She had just leaped onto the boss of that area without any difficulty. With a smile, she remarks that it must have hurt quite a bit after all. That laughing, she claims she was really scared and dodged by accident. She then asks if everyone understands what just happened. At that moment, our protagonist begins riding on top of the deer in one smooth motion. She immediately charges toward the team that had once abandoned her. We see them dodging the beast's heavy hooves as they throw up earth on impact. The man quickly asks if she's gone crazy or something. There's no reason for her to be doing this. Another woman asks what she even thinks she's doing it right now. Her boyfriend yells at her to stop messing around and get down from there. Our girl looks at him with the same psychotic stare as always, accompanied by lifeless red eyes. She asks if that looks like some kind of joke to him. Everyone is terrified and completely tense in that situation. The girl then moves the deer's fur as if it were nothing. She says they'll now see who can last the longest in that exact moment. The massive beast charges forward with its hooves straight at the groove all at once. It stomps on the ground, sending a shockwave out around it. Some time passes, and now everyone is exhausted in that exact moment. The redhead asks what they're supposed to do in a situation like this after all. Someone says he'll heal her while she needs to focus on holding out, and he'll manage a few basic attacks. The woman quickly says she's never done anything like this before, especially not against a boss monster like this one. But the brown-haired man questions what she's so worried about. If she doesn't do it, they'll all die at once. And if she doesn't want that, she needs to listen to him. He's the leader here. He then scratches his head, saying he'll be back soon while she needs to focus on defending them. He promises they'll definitely get out of there no matter what. Then our protagonist asks if they're done because she's ready to start again. We see the mage is already prepared while the girl stands up front with her swords. With that, the deer charges forward at her command. The group wonders how she's able to control a rank B boss while being only a rank C herself. The team leader shouts to block the attack immediately, no matter what. The redhead understands and prepares with her swords, tears running down her face. She manages to perform the guard skill perfectly in that moment to block the strike. The leader gets excited because he finally sees an opening to attack just like he had planned in his perfect strategy. But what he didn't expect was that the girl's stance would collapse along with her hands and legs. Her lifeless body falls behind the two who stare in shock, breathing heavily. That man stares at the scene with a look pure desperation at that exact moment. Our protagonist quickly wonders what kind of monster is being controlled here as it's incredibly powerful. She then uses inspection, revealing that the deer has now reached rank A and possesses immense strength. The young woman is amazed by this since the deer was originally a rank C. She realizes the creature has been blessed by something mysterious. In the end, the parasite ring seems to have a hidden effect after all, and that surprises her a little. But no one cares about that now, and she says she'll kill it first and figure things out later. The creature's hoof slams into the ground, blocking the protagonist's boyfriend from escaping. After a few minutes, the man is now breathing heavily while she asks if he can still handle this. He tries to call her name with an expression of total exhaustion. The girl asks what he even means. She doesn't understand what kind of talk he wants to have at a time like this. That leader thinks that witnessing this situation shows she must have found this secret item in that dungeon, which means that's probably the reason her personality has changed so drastically. Suddenly, the girl hears something she never expected to hear. It's an apology coming from the very person who made her suffer so much. She quickly asks why he's apologizing like that in a situation like this. He says there are many reasons, but the main one is forcing her to understand or even abandoning her and running away. All he wants to say is that he made a lot of mistakes, and because of that, he ruined everything between them in that moment. The The girl responds that he really has a problem since he doesn't even understand why she's angry, which confuses him. Then with a morbid tone, the girl asks if he realizes that she's only angry for one single reason. Quickly, her boyfriend tries to say that if he just knew what it was, he would fix it no matter what, because that's what a mature person does. To which the young woman with a psychotic tone says that the problem is his very existence. That completely confuses the man just before a massive paw flies toward him, ending his life in an instant without delay. After that, we hear laughter echoing from atop the creature. It's our protagonist having the happiest moment of her life right then and there. But she soon opens her eyes, realizing there's something being forgotten. She dismounts her creature, saying she almost forgot that the girl was still there. She then calls out to Nara, who remains paralyzed and trembling in fear. The protagonist questions whether she should let her live, to which the girl pleads to be spared from a cruel fate. We then see a flashback showing that the girl was the only one who genuinely cared about Hyun Choi, and that made her satisfied for a moment and even made her smile. She then says she'll obey no matter what, which the girl immediately understands without question. In the end, the girl is being spared only because she was the one who stopped the door from closing, and for that reason, the protagonist won't forget her humanity in that moment. Nara quickly understands and begins following her new leader while the creature is left behind. But the boss wouldn't let it end like that and begins charging toward them as the girl declares there's one more thing that needs to be said. Because if Nara says something stupid, whatever it may be, she'll face the same fate the boss is facing right now. At that moment, the creature is instantly torn apart, his two halves falling to each side. The protagonist then asks her friend if she understood the meaning of what was just said. Nara quickly says yes, while still crying awkwardly. From now on, they are a team, and if she's betrayed, the other will die. And, of course, before leaving, they need to collect the mana stones. We then see outside of the portal where some guild members are waiting. Both girls emerge from it without any visible concern in their expressions. This is the Hanshin Guild where one of the men asks what happened to the others who went in with them. The girl casually replies that they all ended up dying apparently for mysterious reasons. Steps in to explain that the boss suddenly increased its rank, and while trying to protect everyone, they all ended up dying on the spot. That statement makes our protagonist start to laugh and tremble slightly. Nara uses the moment to say the girl is actually crying right now. Both of them are exhausted, so they'll be leaving and letting the Man of Stones stay behind. Soon, someone approaches, saying that 3B ranks and while 2C rank individuals manage to come back alive. Hyun Choi and Shim Nara are then called out. After all, the man speaking is the guild master and Hyun Chan's uncle, who demands to know what happened in there. The man quickly asks how that's even possible. A dear boss can't just increase its rank suddenly without explanation. Their job was to support the fighters, and in the end, it didn't even manage to do that. But our protagonist looks bored by it all and simply yawns in response. Her friend immediately asks why she's so calm, since if they find any evidence proving she committed murder, both of them will likely end up in prison. The man silently thinks to himself that Kyung-chan really was an idiot for dying and wonders how he's going to explain it to his father. In the end, the company is already in a terrible state, which only makes things worse for them in that situation. But what really caught our protagonist's interest was the watch that was being worn at that moment. She then asks if the old man really has the money to afford luxury items like that watch he's wearing. After all, his clothes are from an expensive brand, not to mention the car he's shown off that's worth around 100 million, which is a lot of money to say the least. They risk their lives to work and still receive minimum wage, yet the guild leader seems busy throwing money away. At that moment, the man grew nervous, realizing his image was being completely torn apart in front of everyone. He then wonders why Hyun Choi is saying these things so suddenly. Normally, she would tremble behind Hyun Chan like a criminal who wouldn't speak in front of the police. Either way, they have to take responsibility for this incident, which completely enrages the girl standing beside our protagonist. Then someone says they need to find a dungeon to enter the next day, to which the girl says things are going way too far. The man continues saying that if someone died, then others must take over their work. Hunters are rare and low demands, so it was a huge loss. The guild is finally starting to stabilize, but now he wonders how he'll find more hunters without Hyun Choi. He suddenly lashes out our protagonist, saying it should have been her who died instead of her boyfriend. At least they still have a fair number of C rankers, so maybe they can do something with that. But then something catches his attention and makes him turn around suddenly. He immediately gets kicked straight in the groin, letting out a cry of pain. In that moment, his face contorted. It was truly the worst pain someone like him could feel. All the male staff winced and shared agony, as if it were a universal pain among men. Meanwhile, the protagonist's friend grabbed her hair, saying the other girl is completely insane. Laughing, the young woman says she hit exactly where she meant to, while the man begs for someone to stop her and help him. But the girl tells him not to act like a baby, laughing softly. In the end, if money's tight and hunters are hard to recruit, then he can go into the dungeon himself. But it's scary, and the old man doesn't like that. The man quickly asks if she's going crazy. After her boyfriend's death, she's finally showing her true self. But the girl just laughs at his words, saying he really is Hyun-chan's uncle, because they think exactly the same way. In the end, that whole family is just one big failure of humanity, and that's why she can only laugh in that moment as tears of joy stream down her face. Yes, she's crazy, but only because she didn't die in her boyfriend's place. The man is shocked and questions what kind of nonsense she's even talking about. The girl quickly threatens him, saying that's exactly what she means. She broke up with Hyun-chan, and nothing will ever bring him back. And on top of that, she'll make sure to leave the guild, which frightens the man as he says she can't do that. To which the girl just fires back that he should have treated her better while she was still there. She then asks if he wants another kick like before, and the man simply collapses to the side, completely stunned. Suddenly, she remembers something she needs to do, and lifts her head. She then tosses a small discount coupon to the man now on his knees. She says it's not much, but it's a condolence gift for what happened with Hyun-chan. She kindly asks him to take care of this situation in these final moments. A scream of pain is heard from the man, while the protagonist yawns and her friend thanks her for everything she's done so far. Next, we see a rundown fifth-rate apartment. The girl asked her friend if she really likes the rock bands on her shirt, to which she says no, she just bought it at some random store, and Choi says she should start dressing more like that. In the end, Hyun-chan never liked her wearing anything that didn't meet his standards. Her friend quickly says she doesn't have to bring that up. After all, that bastard is already dead. This leaves the protagonist completely excited. After all, she finally has a chance to live her own life. It makes her throw herself onto the bed and hit her teddy bear, saying it was the one who killed him, and she laughs joyfully. However, her companion thinks she's insane, as she tends to be really frightening when she acts like that. She quickly asks why she even came to her house, since Choi should have some kind of place or home to return to. The young woman falls silent for a moment, thinking things through. Then she calls out to Nara and asks if she can stay there for a while. She used to live with her boyfriend, so she doesn't want to go back there no matter what. The girl is immediately surprised, scared, and worried she might be killed by her crazy friend. So she agrees, saying it'll only be for a few days, and the protagonist promptly thanks her. Soon, the girl says she left the guild and asks what Choi plans to do from now on. She asks if Choi has any guild in mind to join and is told that she doesn't. Not at the moment. Next, she asks what Choi plans to do about expenses, and the reply is that she has 20 million won in her account, so she'll figure something out. The girl is shocked. It's not much when you really think about it, and she asks who had been paying for her lifestyle. The protagonist explains that he only covered the deposits and then financed everything else, no matter what it was, for his family to pay later. That completely infuriates the protagonist's friend, since he was practically lying about the whole thing. Then she realizes something. Choi has no plan at all. She quickly asks what she intends to do next, since she should find a place and especially get a job. The girl thinks for a moment, since she doesn't want to do anything like that for now. She already achieved her goal, the one and only thing she wanted to do, and now she doesn't know how to move forward. She goes quiet at that moment, wondering what it was she obtained or did to feel satisfied. Then it's said that her primary goal was to find them and kill them, which her friend expected to hear. With a morbid tone, the other girl thanks her for sparing her from that cruel fate that was awaiting. The protagonist gives a calm laugh, saying that reaction was hilarious coming from someone so quiet like her. Suddenly, her stomach growls and catches her attention. Nara asks if she's hungry, to which she says yes. She hasn't eaten in quite a while. They then think about what to eat, and Choi asks if Nara has any ideas, to which she says anything will do. In the end, she doesn't really know anything sounds good right now. After all, her boyfriend wouldn't let her eat at this hour, saying she'd gain weight. That completely infuriates her friend, who quickly narrows her eyes. She asks what kind of lunatic would say something like that so suddenly. Choi then asks why she's so angry all of a sudden, and is told it's natural after hearing something like that. The girl promptly says she's the first person who ever got angry on her behalf in a way that actually benefits her. To which the young woman replies that anyone would call her boyfriend crazy for stopping her from eating at night and she's ordering food now. She adds that being a tank means she uses up a lot of energy, so maybe that's why she wasn't leveling up. Then she says the order has been placed. We then see that the night has passed and Nara is now asleep. The protagonist lies awake, staring at the ceiling in deep thought. After all, the idea of doing things she wants wasn't something that ever crossed her mind. It's been so long since she thought about herself. For now, she doesn't want to enter any dungeon or anything like that. Being part of a guild is way too annoying, and what she wants most is to finally get some rest after all that. To live comfortably with a normal job without any worries about survival, that sounds perfect. Suddenly, a noise catches her attention and she screams in panic. With heavy breathing, she quickly sits up in bed, completely confused. With a haven on her stomach, the young woman wonders what just happened. There's something that seems to be living inside her stomach at that moment. Right after, the protagonist feels as if something is settling in a place in her stomach. She then wonders if it's because of the ring she's wearing. She quickly thinks it's better to remove it to avoid any future complications. However, a system message appears in front of her, saying that once equipped, the ring cannot be removed under any circumstance. The young woman questions whether it's some kind of soul-bound item, and even if it is, it shouldn't be impossible to take off. Plus, the name is very strange. She tries to force it off, saying she doesn't care and just wants to remove it for her own safety. But suddenly, she feels a powerful jolt in her stomach as if something had struck her. She quickly places her hands there wondering what that was. That's when she realizes what it truly means. She really can't remove the ring from her finger. In that moment, she remembers the text that came with the accessory, mentioning an incubation that must be completed. She had seen that message earlier in the dungeon, but is now wondering what exactly will emerge from it. She then imagines xenomorph bursting from her stomach like in the movie Alien. Her mind rose heavy with that dark idea. She sighs, saying that maybe this thing saved her life and pulled her out of a horrible situation, but that doesn't mean she can just relax like it's some harmless object. In the end, she needs to find a way to remove it as soon as possible. First, she needs to understand what this item actually is, and the official route is out of the question. If an X-rank artifact has been discovered by the world, it could be a big problem, so she'll have to rely on illegal sources. We then see Morning Light already entering the room as the girl remains seated, thinking about her options. In the end, choice follows hard, realizing that this isn't over after all. The next day, her companion asks why she's going to the hospital so early, and she replies that she felt a stomachache as soon as she woke up. She then admits that she wants to live with her friend, who's in the car at that moment. But the short-haired girl immediately refuses, saying she won't allow that under any circumstances. Our protagonist tries to convince her, saying she'll pay rent and everything will be fine, but the answer is still no. The place is way too small. With a smile, Hwan Choi says they could just buy a bigger house without any trouble. That catches Nero's attention, and she starts thinking about it. But then she quickly shakes her head, still refusing. Sounds good, but the answer is still no. Our protagonist says she could have killed her, which prompts the question of why she's even saying that. Then the girl admits that she'll have to wait a bit until she saves enough money to move out since she doesn't want to return to Hyun Chan's house. Nara decides to ask how she plans to make money now that she quit the guild yesterday, and she replies that she'll try to find a part-time job. But she also admits another option is dogfighting. That start was her companion, who asks if she's insane for wanting to go to a place like that. But our protagonist, smiling, says she'll make money off it. All she needs to do is bet on herself. It's then explained that it's not actually a dogfight. It's a place where awakened people rank C or lower are put into a ring to fight. The person who gets bet on wins a portion of the money. Basically, it's another name for illegal fights. Nara asks if she's out of her mind since she's no longer just a C rank. That would basically be fraud. To which the protagonist says nobody cares. Her hunter license still says she's at that level. Anyway, it's illegal already, and a little fraud will make it worse. The girl understands that right away. At that moment, the young woman stays silent, a bit hesitant. Then she decides to accept the protagonist's tempting offer. She says that if they can increase the odds, the payout will be solid in the end. Koi laughs at that, saying she's finally making some sense. The two then arrive at the dog fight arena, where it's confirmed to be the place. It looks like an ordinary supply store, but our protagonist says someone told her about it before, and that source is trustworthy. So all they have to do is go in and get inside as fast as possible, and Nara immediately asks what they'll do if this isn't the right place. That question is ignored, and both of them end up entering the place at once. Our protagonist then calls out to the old lady who is currently knitting something. The girl quickly says she's looking for something that's in that location, and the older woman asks what exactly it is that has caught the young woman's attention. Without hesitation, our protagonist pulls out her hunter ID and shows it to her. This reveals that she is just a C rank with a tank role, only capable of applying physical attributes. The woman sighs, saying there are plenty of girls like her, and suggests she avoid getting hurt and simply join a hunter guild. Quarter responds that she left one just the day before, which ended up being a problem. The old woman says that C ranks can find work easily, and Choi replies that she's just taking a break. She's tired of it all. The woman, on the other hand, questions how someone like her can say something like that, claiming she's probably just a spoiled girl who doesn't realize how good this job actually is. But then looking more closely at the girl, the old woman falls silent until she finally asks if Choi has ever killed someone because she sees it in her eyes. After all, there's no reason a perfectly normal girl would come to a place like this. Our protagonist quickly tries to calm things down, saying the woman is implying scary things, which the old lady just tells her to go home. Soon, our protagonist steps a bit closer to the old woman at the counter. She asks how much it costs for both of them to be allowed into the area where the fights take place. That finally gets the woman's attention. She said something that can actually grant them entry. The old lady then slowly raises her wrinkled hand with a sluggish tone and signals for her to stay silent no matter what happens from this point forward. Tuoi asks if they accept cards for the transaction. The woman says money is the only thing that matters. If she pays by card, there will be a 10% fee added on top. The protagonist understands but still chooses to pay with her balance card. The old woman then tells them to follow that path until they find stairs and go down. Hyun Choi does so without any difficulty. Nara asks if the entrance fee wasn't a bit much, to which she's told it's nothing. After all, they're gonna make a ton of money down there anyway. We then see the down fight ring where awakened ones are battling. They quickly notice that match has already started, and Choi thinks she should have brought some money after all. But when she sits and turns to ask her friend something, the girl has vanished, and she asks where she went. She then lifts her head and looks around for a moment. At first, Nara was scared of all of this, but now it seems she's taken the lead and brought a lot of money with her. The girl then approaches only to be met with our protagonist's irritated expression. Choi stares at her like someone who's just been scammed. Nara asks what she's looking at, claiming she hasn't done anything wrong so far. Her friend shoots back that Nara was completely silent at the entrance, and because of that, she ended up paying over $1,000,000 herself. Nara gets annoyed at that, saying it was just a portion of her money, and that she's the one with more cash to spend in the end. The two of them then get into a heated argument about the money they each have at the moment. But suddenly, someone approaches and asks if they're new there. It's a tall boy with red hair. He promptly asks if he can sit next to Choi. The girl quickly replies that he can go ahead. There's no problem. The red-haired guy then asks who she's betting on. Is it the so-called champion of the desert or the king who rules the ocean? Our protagonist replies that she's not betting. She's participating. Then she asks who he's putting his chips on. The guy replies that you should always bet on someone who's definitely strong. And as an example, he says he would absolutely bet on the protagonist at that very moment, catching her completely by surprise. She quickly thinks that her rank must have been checked after all, and then says that usually people bet on men. It's surprising that he has the guts to do this. She then decides to use her inspection ability, but notices that all of this man's stats are completely hidden. That surprises her since her ability should bypass any kind of defense at that moment. Currently, her rank is at A, which means this guy is at least on the same level or even higher than her. She then wonders why someone like him would come to a place like this, where only beginners or weaklings gather. Quickly, the man explains that to participate in this place, you must have a restricted level of rank C. There's no way they haven't checked his hunter license by now. He then asks if the girl's registration is really being faked. She replies that he's creeping her out with those suspicious eyes, and that he should mind his own business and just enjoy the match. Her companion quickly pulls her away, saying that this man is being annoying after all. Her hunter license is legit, to which the man just sighs and says she's absolutely right. The girl then says that if he's drunk, he should just enjoy the match quietly. There's no need to start fights with random people. Our protagonist asks who they're even talking about. There's no old man around here. She's told he's right next to her, and that she can even see his red nose. We then get a comparison showing how the image appears to that girl where we see the handsome face of this man. Troy quickly asks if her friend is going blind. He really looks like he's their age, but the girl responds that she can see his bald spot from here. Troy then says that his hair is clearly covered until a laugh is heard. It's the man next to them who says that anyone who heard that would be pretty hurt, surprising the girl. In the end, she realizes something. This person really is wearing a special item just to hide his identity from anyone far below his rank. Soon, the bell rings marking the start of the match that's about to begin. It will be a battle between the Desert Master and the Ocean Storm, and it begins now. The girl is excited. After all, this is a great opportunity to make money. Annoyed, she tells the man to shut up or she'll end up kicking him, and he agrees without any issue. In the end, this place is full of people who aren't awakened and low-rank hunters, and they probably can't even recognize his face. We then see that the man in the ring is only rank E, while the bald one on the other side is rank D, which is above the former. The girl then asks who she thinks will win and is told that ranks are a trump card above all. Her companion agrees, saying that's why she bet most of her money on the rank D fighter. Then the red-haired boy tells her she should change her bet quickly, which only annoys her more. The fighter then charges in and tackles his opponent. He slams him to the ground in one move, making the girl panic. A flurry of punches follows to break the man's defense as he lies on the ground. Then we see his teeth, sharp like a shark's, and he moves in. He bites into the flesh of the man lying in front of him. The red-haired guy is shocked by this, and Choi says that he's definitely going to win, making the girl even more desperate as she had believed the other guy would pull through. But the boy from before tells her to stop denying reality. Even the protagonist already noticed that the ranky fighter is playing really dirty. The girl asks what he's talking about. She bet more than 300,000 on that fight and truly believes the guy can survive. But in the end, the Desert Master won, and that outcome was completely expected by the red-haired boy. The girl felt her soul leaving her body. Her money was gone. More than 300,000 simply vanish with no chance of victory. The guy keeps laughing, saying she should have listened to what he said earlier, making her even more depressed. The girl, on the other hand, is laughing after all, and that match was truly hilarious in the end. Nara quickly grabbed her shirt, asking how she could laugh in a moment like that since she had said the D rank would win. She asked what would be done about the money she just lost right then and there. The protagonist immediately stared back at her with a serious look, asking what exactly she thought she was doing. The young woman quickly realized she had crossed a line and grew nervous. She then said she lost her head for a second and asked when Troll would fight, since she told her to place a bet on her. Our protagonist replied that she changed her mind, which instantly surprised the girl. She quickly asked what Troll is doing, and the protagonist thought she should be grateful not to get beaten up in a place like that for such disrespect. In truth, she was more curious about that guy and called out to him, thinking that she also needed to find the illegal market, even though she had no information on it. The red-haired guy then asked if she had given up on participating. Maybe her conscience had kicked in. To which the girl replied that she got caught, so she couldn't join in, and in the end was prevented from making a lot of money. So now he should take responsibility. The guy insisted that he had nothing to do with it and she shouldn't waste her rank there. She should join a guild and make more money that way. But for her, this was just a hobby, and so she decided to ask what he was doing there. Since he shouldn't have gone that far just to use an illegal item in the end, the man admitted it was a sort of hobby for him too, and said he wasn't planning to report her for cheating, then asked if he could go his own way now. The girl quickly said no. She needed access to alternative channel distribution in the end. She then asked where he got the item he was using at that moment. Smiling, the guy asked what she was talking about, saying she sounded like she was trying to become a criminal, though he had no intention of telling her anything. She quickly concluded that he was actually pretty cautious, which was surprising. But then a loud sound echoed, drawing both of their attention in one direction. The police had just arrived at the scene, saying illegal gambling was taking place. The guy scratched his head and sighed. If he got caught, it would be a real problem, so he needed to leave right away. But before he could go, the girl grabbed him with an extremely firm grip. He asked what she was planning, and she said there were two possibilities at that moment. Take her to the place or get arrested with her right then and there. The girl kept pulling his hand closer and closer. Then she started biting him, and he asked if she was completely insane, to which she replied that he wouldn't be let go unless she died. A police officer spotted them and began walking toward them, causing the man to panic. Then see outside of the building with the sun already beginning to set. Suddenly, an explosion goes off at that exact moment. The protagonist and her new companion use the opportunity to escape immediately. They both begin running faster toward the forest. The girl asked if it was really necessary to do something like that to the buildings, and he told her to ignore it and just keep running as fast as possible. In the end, what she plans to do there is the real question, because she might actually become a real criminal. But the protagonist simply said she had an item she wanted to get praised, and if there's any chance it's useful, then she'll buy the information. She then asked what the man's ranking was. He said she could take a look, and if that's a problem, then she just needed to raise her power. Megan already fallen, and we see someone breathing heavily. Someone who has been running for hours non-stop. It's our protagonist now completely exhausted as she looks ahead. In the end, that man is truly fast, and he's definitely not just an A rank. She now confirms it's very likely that he's at least an S rank, which is surprising. He is asked if they are still far from the place, to which he replies they've already arrived. That surprises the girl, who is confused at that moment because she doesn't see anything resembling a black market. There doesn't seem to be anything there, so she asks how they're supposed to get in. The man quickly moves the vegetation aside until he reaches a stone. He presses it, and a strange sound is heard at that exact moment. In the end, he says his name shouldn't be mentioned once they're inside, and she replies that she doesn't even know who he is, asking if he's famous. He says she must be one of the only hunters who doesn't recognize him, then introduces himself as Kim Dong-ju. And since they're both young, there's no need for honorifics. The girl accepts that easily. It's already a decent foundation of trust. She then asks how old he is, and he says he's just 26. Turns out they're the same age, so it's a pleasure to meet him. They soon arrive at the location, which amazes the young woman. She didn't expect there to be a place like this inside a cave. In the end, people seem to have excavated some truly strange things, and she asks who could have done such detailed work that would take years. She's told it was done by the hunters themselves, which surprises the protagonist even more, as that was completely unexpected. A large number of people awaken, and more often than not, they have a criminal record or end up committing crimes after awakening. She then asks how he knows so much, and he says he hears a lot of things, but insists he's not a criminal. The protagonist asks what this guy does nowadays, since at his level, he should have at least joined a guild. He says he already belongs to one, which surprises the young woman, and she asks which one. He says it's a secret he doesn't plan on revealing right now. After some time, they arrive at an appraiser, who immediately finds the item suspicious because she can't sense anything from it. She asks for the girl got the item in the end. She says it came from a dungeon, and apparently, it's a soul-bound item that can't be removed under any circumstances. Still, something about it doesn't seem right. No matter what, an item should at least be removable, and the girl says she tried but had to come here anyway. She asks if there's anything that can be done, and the elderly woman says this is the first time she's ever seen something like this in her life. The protagonist observes silently for a long moment, and then she realizes that in the end, she can't figure anything out about it. She asks if it's okay to try removing it, and the old woman says there's no problem. The woman then grabs the ring and tries to force it off the girl's finger. As a result, the girl feels a sharp, extreme pain in her abdomen, as if an organ were being ripped out, and she grits her teeth in agony. The woman is shocked. It's the first time she's seen something of this level. The girl says this always happens suddenly when someone tries to remove it, and the same thing happened last night, making this item even stranger. In the end, the woman can't appraise this item herself, but at least wants to know what it's called in the girl's status screen. The girl gets a bit tense at this, since revealing it could be dangerous. So she says it's simply labeled unknown, and she can't afford to go around telling people that right now. The woman quickly apologizes, saying this is beyond her capabilities, and she can't handle something like that. Our protagonist understands. It does seem like something extremely difficult to deal with after all. She then says as she stands that she'll be going now, but something nearby suddenly catches her attention. It's a small golden earring, which she decides to appraise. She sees that the item prevents her level from being seen by people up to 2 ranks above her. In the end, that could be very useful since it will help ensure her safety. With that, even someone of rank S wouldn't be able to read her status. She then asks how much it costs to buy. She's told it's only 300, since someone of her rank probably wouldn't need it, and is asked if it's really necessary. She says yes, and they're told they can even accept credit card payments. So the man decides to pay for it since he only deals in cash. She then smiles with satisfaction at the new earrings she just received. After all, it's a great gift. She asks if the man can still see her rank, and he says no, since with her current stats, she's most likely hidden even from S ranks. He then asks if she really dislikes it when people read her status, but then he changes the subject, saying they should talk about the item instead since it seems really important to her to choose and hide her rank. She soon moves to the back area where she starts checking out other things from different vendors. The man clicks his tongue, clearly needing to know something. Our protagonist admits this is a problem as she's trying to find a different way to get it appraised, but it'll be a huge hassle if rumors start spreading. In the end, being cautious never hurts, and she needs to find a way out of this. There must be another way besides the black market. But something quickly catches her attention. She suddenly remembers something. It's the secret dungeon. If she goes back to that place, she might find a way to get the item evaluated. There are a total of 11 secret dungeons around the world, and one was discovered in Korea. Now 2 of them have appeared at once. In the end, secret dungeons don't disappear, they simply reset, which means it'll probably require a reset this time. She's going to have to explore many dungeons once she finds it and return the ring to where it truly belongs. The only problem is that she can't enter places like that unless she has a guild with her, and she wonders if she really has to go through with that. Meanwhile, the man beside her seems deep in thought, remembering the vendor's words. He'd asked why the item was worth 300, saying it was barely worth a fraction of that, only be called a cheapskate by the woman for trying to bargain. He called her greedy for money, saying she couldn't even evaluate the item properly, and wondered if it wasn't time for her to retire. The woman just cursed him again, questioning if a new dungeon had appeared or something, because if it had, she should have known. After all, no appraiser she knows has ever seen that item before. That caught the man's attention, and he stared at her for a long moment. Then he paid the money, saying he had just cleared a dungeon recently. He crouched down and got closer to the protagonist. He said that collecting items was a bit of a hobby for him most of the time. She asked if he wanted the ring since he clearly hadn't walked away in the end. But the guy said it wasn't a problem. There's always a way. All he had to do was take the girl's entire finger at once. She replied that was a pretty twisted hobby, honestly. But no new dungeon had appeared recently, so there's no other way she could have gotten that item. In other words, everything points to her having discovered a secret dungeon. The protagonist becomes tense. This guy figured out why she was so eager to be brought here. At that moment, she realized how small she was in comparison to the man in front of her, and cursed him under her breath. He was clearly hiding a massive amount of mana, pressing it directly against her at that very moment. Still trembling, she recognized that the rank difference between them created an overwhelming pressure that made her hesitant. But even then, she kept in her mind the memory of that hell she went through with all those praying mantises devouring her alive. It was a despair she endured for years inside that dungeon, where time didn't pass, something greater than anything else. She opened her mouth ready to activate a skill right then and there. A shockwave burst out, completely startling the redhead, who tried to block it with his arm. The skill she used was Roar, which began to affect the nearby structures, tearing the place apart. The man covered his ears, wondering what the hell she was doing. She was clearly insane for using a move like that. Because of the using skills outside of a dungeon is extremely dangerous for anyone nearby. After all, when a newly awakened person faces someone with higher level, they're naturally submitting to the stronger one. However, this child lacks that instinct in the end, which proves to be something truly remarkable. As if a pair of scissors had cut away something essential for the survival of the strong against the weak, it is asked how that could have started since besides being born with it. Such instinct usually only develops after severe trauma. We then see the surrounding structures completely destroyed while the man stays silent, wondering if that even matters at this point. The girl quickly says he can take the item if he wants and insults him once again. At that moment, he feels a strong conviction and raises his hands, saying the joke has gone too far. And if it's true, she found the special dungeon. He says she needs to have the item appraised, and there's only one way to do it. He suggests they start searching for a hidden dungeon together from now on. Then he says he'll help her no matter what happens from here on out. Next, we return to Nara, who says she doesn't feel like eating anything at that exact moment. The protagonist asks if that's really true since she brought her favorite food, but the young woman just stays silent, a weight hanging over her. The tag says she bought a lot of food, but if Nara doesn't want it, then she'll just eat it all herself, to which her friend replies that food isn't the problem. She then asks where the other girl went since she ended up being left behind and the whole structure collapsed. It was chaos trying to get out. The protagonist remembers that her old team also left her behind, and Nara replies that may be true, but it doesn't justify the mistake she made. The protagonist then asks if Nara has calmed down now. She replies yes, though we can still see tears on her face. Nara then asks what they'll do about expenses from now on since the arena was lost and is told that they're considering guild work, to which the girl replies that she's not going. She's trying to find a hidden dungeon and will probably be coming home late for a while. That surprises the short-haired girl, who asks how she even plans to do that. She's told they're just going to clear several dungeons until they find one, but Nara says that's not the point. How will Choi manage that without any leads? Choi replies that this problem's already solved. Kim Dong-ju said he'll help her. Nara immediately asks how that's possible since that's the name of an S-rank hunter. Choi's surprised she recognized him just by name, but didn't realize it when he was sitting right next to her. At the end, Nara asks her not to lie. There's no reason that man would go to a place like that arena, plus the person next to her was clearly some old man. She then pulls out her phone saying she'll show her what Kim Dong-ju actually looks like to see if she recognizes him. She then wonders how anyone could confuse someone like that with that dumb old guy. The age difference alone is more than obvious. Nara asks if Choi knows the Pageo Guild, since he's a member of it, to which Choi replies yes, and says that's the same man she saw at the arena. The young woman is completely shocked to find out that man is really who Choi says he is. She then asks again if that old man was truly him, since it didn't seem possible. She's stunned to hear that he used an item that changes his appearance for anyone much lower rank than him, and that completely shocks her. In the end, the girl says she should have told her earlier they were speaking to him like he was just some ordinary person. But Choi says it's fine. He doesn't mind. Nara then says she doesn't even have the nerve to ask if she can join his guild now. And Choi asks what's so special about that place to want to join so badly. This only makes Nara more annoyed, and she insists it's very special. If she can get in, she won't have to worry about expenses and will have tons of benefits. We are soon told that the Pageo Guild was founded by one of the only 2S rank individuals in the entire world. Among all 8S ranks worldwide, 3 are affiliated with her. Because of this, the power that comes from that guild is sent to rival that of a nation, making it truly the strongest guild in the world. To enter it, you have to defeat 1,000 people just for a single spot. She then says that if you like the food so much, he can eat as much as he wants after all. Next, we see the following day where the girl is staring at someone. It's the red-haired man who asks what she's looking at on his face to be staring like that. She replies that she's just surprised he's actually part of the Pageo Guild, and the man smiles, saying she figured it out early. He then asks why she's carrying that shield, to which she says they're heading into a dungeon, so, of course, she should bring it. The man teases her a bit, and the girl just tells him to explain already, but he ignores her and says to follow him as quickly as possible. He also adds that there's something she absolutely must keep in mind. From this point on, she must keep her guard sharp at all times. She must remember that illegal dungeons are far more dangerous than any others. Next, we see one of the creatures charging directly at the protagonist until it's struck by an extremely powerful blow that eliminates it with no effort. It was an F-rank lizard soldier. The girl says they should stay alert, but that was nothing in the end, and asks if he was being serious. He says she's really dumb for believing that since most of the dungeons are D rank or lower, and that annoys her. She says you must really want to die. But in the end, it doesn't matter since most secret dungeons are found in lower tier areas anyway, so they're searching everywhere. Then we see a heavy stomp hit the ground, an enemy stronger than before. So far, they haven't found the dungeon, but this thing is finally showing up, an E-rank lizard general. He asks what they're going to do next. Should they keep looking a bit longer or just eliminate the boss and leave? The girl thinks carefully about the situation. Then the lizard senses something approaching rapidly. It's the protagonist who takes it out effortlessly and without mercy. He then says this is just a waste of time. If the dungeon hasn't appeared, then there's nothing else here. They need to leave now since they don't have much time left. That ring seems to be storing the girl's vitality just to get access to the parasite inside her body. We return to an image from the past where one of the creatures lunges with its mouth full of teeth. Our protagonist, still weak, was able to block all the attacks, preventing them from getting through. And through tears, she begged for help since she couldn't hold out much longer. Then a hand touched her shoulder at that moment, calling her name. And her boyfriend asked her to die in his place from that moment on. In the end, that was the reason her family paid off all her debts. That figure then pushed the protagonist into her endless abyss. All the girl could do was look with red eyes as tears fell down. In the end, she was supposed to be grateful after all. She was just paying for what she had consumed all this time. Then the girl finally wakes up from that nightmare she was trapped in. Her pupils are completely dilated from the situation, and her throat feels tight. She quickly looks at her hand and realizes it's trembling from fear. But then she grips it tightly, saying that the dead should stay gone, even in her memories. In the end, the fact that her ex-boyfriend is still appearing in her dreams means there's something she's forgetting or doing wrong. Meanwhile, her companion is still sleeping noisily, and some of them can't even sleep properly. The girl watches in silence for a long moment, thinking that she will definitely keep developing to survive. However, one day she'll probably be abandoned again. In the end, killing her is always an option, but that's not something for now. Until Choi resolves the situation with whatever is inside her belly, she can afford to miss any dungeon she has the chance to enter, or she will be dragged down because of the accessory that saved her life. But soon we see her companion saying she's already very late at that moment. Then she's asked where she's going, to which she replies it's an interview at a local guild to get a job. She wonders why her companion didn't wake up at that time and asks if the other wants a ride. The short-haired girl questions what she's talking about since her friend doesn't even have a car. But soon we see the outside where a high-end car is waiting. That completely shocks her, as the person behind it is truly impressive. It turns out to be the redhead, who asks if that wasn't her friend from earlier and whether she's okay now. The girl, on the other hand, becomes even more startled. After all, Kim Dong-ju is right in front of her at that moment. Our protagonist assumes they are the same age, so she doesn't need to be overly formal, but she is told not to take the lead in situations like this. But we can clearly see that Nara is frightened, with many thoughts running through her mind, and she begins to think she was wrong before. Soon, her mind snaps due to the intense pressure she's experiencing at that exact moment. Her soul begins to leave her body as she begs for her life to be spared by the man she previously thought was an old guy. Soon, the vehicle starts moving at a reasonable speed. The girl asks if she's still unconscious and said that the traffic is very light, which was a bit surprising. Meanwhile, the guy asks which guild she's planning to have the interview with. Upon hearing the answer, the protagonist realizes the leader of that place emerged from a secret dungeon, which in turn helped her grow significantly. However, the redhead states he's not like those who seek out secret dungeons just to level up, and that's why his group doesn't get along well with others. The protagonist asks if they do get along, since last time her fingers were at risk, to which it said they're cooperating, but could switch sides quickly. Then we see the portal of the place where a man says they've arrived. Next, they ask about the status of the dungeon, and it said they can enter as soon as possible. Our protagonist wonders who those idiots are, and it's explained they're guild members guarding the area so others can enter. In the end, just because it's illegal doesn't mean no one's supervising, which makes the young woman want to report it right away. But then it's pointed out she's also entering into danger, so it's not really an issue. Then the girl takes the lead, saying they need to go in as fast as possible since her time is running out, and soon they'll put their separate ways. That impresses the redhead, and even the people nearby notice there's some kind of tension between them. Therefore, the man quickly asks what they're all staring at, since they should just be supervising the area. Quickly, he brushes his neck, wondering what's so funny about the whole situation. Then he decides to forget it. After all, he needs to start scouting again for the day. Soon, the protagonist asks why it's taking so long, as she wants to finish it quickly. But then her ring begins to emit a strange aura that scares her and makes her wonder what's happening. And as soon as she looks directly at it, she realizes something strange just returned to normal. In the end, her eyebrows furrow and she questions whether she's just imagining things, since even her last dream was very bizarre. Next, the redhead approaches, asking what she's doing there, and she says he took too long, to which he apologizes immediately. Then the guy backs off, saying she's acting completely like the leader of the operation. But the girl seems more thoughtful. After all, she needs to find a way to gather more information, since this won't go away easily. Soon, we see that a month has passed, and now they're on a floating island. Several creatures are advancing with claws and beaks ready to tear apart. They're heading straight toward the protagonist, who stands below. But suddenly, a flash of light is seen, as if a powerful strike had been executed. It quickly wipes out the creature like a shotgun blast. Rapidly, all of them are struck with terrifying speed by the protagonist, who is acting more aggressively than usual. Even her companion notices something is off and wonders if something happened to make her so irritated. In the end, they didn't find anything that day either, and so he calls it off, saying they should leave. But then, something changes in the girl's expression as she turns toward him. Suddenly, she lunges at him with terrifying speed, aiming to finish him off. However, the man easily grabs her hand, asking why she's acting like this. After all, she seems to be challenging him at this very moment. With that, he begins to squeeze the protagonist's hand all at once, then throws her away, stating that he won't go easy on her just because she's his friend. We can see a distance is clearly formed between them in that instant. The girl is breathing heavily, her pupils fully dilated and white. However, her consciousness quickly returns to normal at that moment, and she starts to question what just happened right then and there. The man then remarks that she looks tired and should rest since he'll take care of the boss, still the two momentarily separate at that point. Meanwhile, the girl holds her head, still breathing heavily, wondering what she just did. In the end, she wonders if searching for a secret dungeon is really the right thing to do. Her body is becoming increasingly strange, and it feels like something is trying to take control of it. It's already clear that the ring is extremely dangerous, and now there's the question of what should be done. Time passes, and we then see the girl calling out to Nara saying she's back. After taking off her shoes, she asks what happened to make her look like she's been crying like that. Nara says she was rejected again from a job interview. She admits that finding a job has really been hard lately, and when she asks how the protagonist is doing, the answer isn't much different. But then the protagonist tosses her a bag, telling her to eat something. Nara quickly looks up, asking what was brought. She's told us just some pork ribs, and she should have some rice and condiments at home. Next, we see the girl slamming her cup on the table, saying she's hopeless. In the end, finding a job is even harder because she's just a typical support type, and on top of that, only rank C. Life is really frustrating, especially since she awakened as a helper for other classes, while the protagonist seems to barely care about her, until she hears that the other girl still wishes to become stronger in the end. Then she's asked why she doesn't just kill monsters to raise her stats, to which she replies it would take too long since she can't deal enough damage. She then falls silent as tears stream even more from her face. Then some may ask how the protagonist got so strong. Must have been some item found in the secret dungeon. In the end, she thinks the protagonist is really lucky and wonders if she should start looking for those hidden dungeons too. But that irritates the protagonist, who thinks she didn't get lucky at all and isn't even happy with her current situation. Nara keeps saying that if she could get stronger with an item, she could quickly join a guild and make a lot of money. But the protagonist thinks she has no idea what she's talking about, being surrounded by mantises, unable to die, forever being prey, and having to grow stronger just to survive is exactly the kind of nightmare anyone would dread. In the end, the girl doesn't know anything and still talks like that, and the protagonist starts wondering if she should just kill her now without hesitation. Quickly, Nura says she's overthinking because of the alcohol, but she really just wants to earn lots of money like the other hunters. Then Choi steps in, asking if she thinks she's lucky. In the end, she must have lost all sense of guilt and is just talking nonsense. Nara senses the danger and begs her to wait, saying that's not what she meant. But the protagonist remains threatening, asking what she was really trying to say. Nara keeps apologizing, saying she went crazy because of the drinking. In the end, she admits she never should have said that, especially after barely surviving what happened last time. What would happen if the other one suddenly decided to kill her? With trembling hands, she agrees and begs her companion to just forget what was said at that moment. In the end, Nara is completely regretful and asks for a second chance. Quickly, the protagonist goes silent, only staring at her with a murderous gaze. But then she sighs, wondering what her friend really knows. After all, it's normal to be curious. And so she says they should just finish the pork ribs and never bring something like that up again, which the girl quickly understands. Both then continue eating in silence, with the tension in the air slowly fading away. The protagonist looks at her own body for a brief moment, reflecting on it. Then she calls out to Nara, who quickly responds. In the end, she must know that she almost died in that place, and at the same time she found that ring. The girl asks what that has to do with anything, since she must have been able to survive thanks to it. However, it's explained that it doesn't have such a convenient ability after all. As mentioned before, there's only one way to increase your stats, and that's by killing a massive number of monsters beyond what can even be counted. The girl quickly questions what exactly is being said in front of her at that moment. She scratches her head, wondering how that makes any sense, which draws a protagonist's attention. In the end, a tank should hold the front line so the others don't take damage. So how did she manage to defeat so many creatures? And more importantly, how did she return so quickly after the door closed when her stats increased so much in such a short time? Her hand rests on the table, curious about what is being revealed. And completely worried, she asks what exactly happened to her in that place. To which, without hesitation, the protagonist responds that she died an enormous number of times. In the end, it's impossible to know how many times it repeated, because even with her arms ripped off or even without her mind, she still kept coming back to life. Even though all she wanted was death, the girl admits that she still doesn't understand what's being said. After all, it's a strange thing to grasp. In the end, it said that she died countless times being killed by the creatures, and because of that, she was able to grow stronger. She felt strange the entire time since she didn't want to become strong or obtain an item. She couldn't even understand what was going on, but her body began to adapt to the pain. After crossing the portal, no time had passed outside, and everyone was still in the same place as before. In the end, that's the whole truth that can be told about how she became strong from just that incident, which Nara, realizing the real situation and weight of it, said was impossible, a heavy voice. In the end, she was alone in a place like that, and the other was foolish not to realize it while saying all that. She then bit her lower lip, thinking she had said too much after all. And if that's true, she really can't understand one thing. To which our protagonist says Nara doesn't need to, just knowing what happened is enough. However, the support girl starts trembling, asking how she was even able to save her at that exact moment. If she had known that was truly going to happen, she definitely would have stopped the protagonist's ex-boyfriend from closing the door. Even so, she didn't, and that makes the girl completely freeze for a moment. Then she starts to smile kindly, finding the situation a bit humorous, letting out a loud laugh as her cheeks begin to blush. In the end, she doesn't need to get the wrong idea. She wasn't spared because she deserved it, but because it felt like the right thing to do. So there's no need to hold on to that in the end. But still, the short-haired girl sincerely apologizes in a way that doesn't feel fake at all. Our protagonist remains silent at that moment, realizing just how serious the situation is. So she decides to break the mood by asking if she's really crying, to which she replies she's not. Then we see the next day where the redhead is asked if he's ever received an apology, and he says of course he has. The protagonist asks who it was from and whether it was sincere. He says it was from family and people around him that asked about her. Our protagonist admits she only saw cases like that when she was younger, which catches the guy's attention, and he says she's lived a pretty unusual life. The girl assumes he must know after all he spent most of his time apologizing for everything. She then remembers calling out to Hyun-chan, asking him to wait. At that moment, Nara tried to stop her, saying Choi hadn't arrived yet, and she recalls her friend's tearful face as she sincerely apologized. She hadn't expected such a genuine apology from someone like her, but even so, she did it as if she truly needed to. Either way, that was a unique moment for her, as it really felt like someone genuinely cared about Choi for the first time. The redhead is impressed by this and falls silent for a long while, thinking and asking if she's talking about the girl named Nara. Then the guy says she doesn't need to tell those stories just to gain sympathy, to which it said she was caught red-handed. The man thinks Hyun Choi really seemed to be in a good mood that day, and even though they didn't find anything, he wasn't upset at all. Maybe bringing Nura to control the protagonist is a good idea, but increasing the number of people might only bring more danger. However, when he looks ahead, he's instantly startled, wondering what that is. We then see the figure of a woman asking where he's been these past few days, his gorilla of the sister. He thinks this is bad because if his sister finds out he's been searching for a secret dungeon, it could be serious trouble. He'll be dead if that happens. He then asks whether she's his sister or his mother, to which she replies that she just came back from the guild, where they told her he's been skipping work and traveling. And so the boy just claims he went to the black market after a long time, saying he was looking for useful items. The blonde quickly sits down, saying that's quite interesting story. However, she suspects he might have been looking for secret dungeons while she was away, but the redhead insists he'd never do that since he promised not to. His sister immediately punches him in the stomach, asking where he got the nerve to speak so casually to his sister. The boy quickly covers his stomach and asks how she can talk like that while hitting him that way. He then kicks her away and calls her a gorilla again. The blonde lands swiftly and charges back at him, asking how this brat still doesn't watch his mouth when speaking to his beloved sister. After all, the guildmaster kept bothering her for not seeing her brother, and if what he's saying is true, he'll only be half killed instead of completely. But the guy catches her punch and says he wasn't just fooling around in the city. The woman, now serious, demands to know what this brat was really doing, to which he responds that he was just dating, silently apologizing to Hyun Choi for using his name at that moment. In the end, this surprises the blonde hearing that her brother is dating someone. She grabs him by the collar, asking if he's gone crazy, since there's no way he has time for that. But the redhead simply says she shouldn't talk that way about her brother and just ask to be let go. The gorilla quickly catches on and apologizes, saying it's a ridiculous lie and decides to ask how he met this girl. The man thinks for a moment and says the situation is annoying since last month while watching a dogfight. He ended up seeing her in one of the spots he planned to sit, and that ended up being his type in the end. Eventually, they started chatting here and there, and now they've been seeing each other often. His sister quickly asks if this girl isn't some kind of illusion, which irritates him further and tells her to shut up. The blonde then assumes she might be dangerous for frequenting such a shady place. But he explains that she's just a rank C hunter with no affiliations who left her job to relax for a while. In the end, they had plenty of time to meet up thanks to vacation she's taking, which his sister seems to understand. But in his thoughts, the guy admits he needs to survive and so apologizes once again to Hyun Choi in silence. The woman then questions how he has the nerve to keep doing these things since he seems to be skipping work again. The redhead admits he's being a bit self-indulgent. After all, he plans to work anyway and is just taking some time for himself. The woman understands that but says she's already told him that hundreds of times and he needs to be careful since the guild leader is considering firing him. With a hand on his chin and deep in thought, he realizes the situation is getting more serious. Things are starting to spiral out of control. In the end, there's a reason his sister keeps bothering him. It's the low demand for groups to explore dungeons. We're shown a memory from the past where the man tells them to hold position as he's about to give the signal. However, both siblings jumped in at once with terrifying speed. The redhead quickly wiped out the creatures, saying he would win this time. The girl just laughed while effortlessly taking down one of the monsters. She told him to keep dreaming of a future where he might actually beat her. Normally, they should follow the dungeon leader's instructions, but he and his sister tend to ignore that and just compete. Of course, that ends up working well as the creatures get bunched together in one spot. Both of them have an easy time dealing with weaker monsters, as we can clearly see. However, for the others, it's nothing short of a nightmare as they could easily die at any moment. In the end, the two cause so many problems that the guild members eventually stop forming groups with them altogether. The blonde then asks if there's no decent person available to work with since they're trying to find someone compatible for the next recruitment. The redhead tries to say they don't have to go that far. They could just bring in a newbie with no real value. But the woman reminds him that even someone like that probably wouldn't be able to handle the two of them. Seeing the situation, the redhead sighs and says he'll try to find someone. But his sister suggests he called his current companion and fling. That surprises him and he questions what she's talking about, to which the girl asks why he's so shocked. She's an unaffiliated hunter and it's a great opportunity. In the end, if they form a party, the two of them could even date inside the dungeon. They won't need to worry about her. She'll just watch the two flirt without any real concern since she'll only have to kill monsters. But the atmosphere starts to grow heavier as the woman continues talking about her ideas for wiping out the creatures. And quickly, the topic shifts into an obsession with finding out where our protagonist lives. Our focus changes to the next day where we find someone sighing late at night. It's Nara who says she doesn't want to go home, something she never thought she'd say. Yesterday, something truly frightened her because the story she heard was incredibly heavy. Still, she feels the need to hold back a bit before seeing her face again. But in the end, what can she even do? The protagonist has nowhere else to go right now, so she has to treat her well, thinking through every little detail to avoid upsetting her, and admits she's tired, and our protagonist surprises her by saying she's already home. The girl assumes she got there early, to which it said she was just waiting after all. She's planning to leave this place soon and move into another house. Nara is shocked by that, as she believed Choi had nowhere else to go. We're then shown a bit earlier when the protagonist was lying down saying she's going crazy because she didn't find a single secret dungeon that day. In the end, it would be nice if she could get some clue about that ring, since her body is feeling stranger with each passing day. Nothing happened on this last hunt, but it could all happen again at any moment. It's very likely all of this is because of the ring she's wearing. Inside the dungeon, it's one thing, but outside, it could be a real problem, especially in the place she spends most of her time. That place being Nero's house, where she's realizing the situation is getting complicated. The girl quickly admits it's true, and that's why she's leaving, which the girl fully understands. She then asks where she's planning to go and said she's still looking, but it shouldn't take more than 2 weeks. Nara clearly understands and admits the other is really good at cooking, to which she agrees. If she has the ingredients, she can make just about anything. Cho is worried because she hadn't been cooking lately, but felt much better after giving it a try. Normally, she used to cook for Hyun-chan every day, and so she curses him again, making Nara choke a little. Our protagonist tells her to eat more slowly, while in her thoughts, her companion blames herself for it. Nara quickly thinks the situation will calm down with time, but then her phone starts to vibrate. She quickly grabs it, wondering who it could be, until we see the sudden surprise appear in her eyes. She ends up shouting in surprise, prompting the protagonist to ask what happened. And through tears, the girl says she passed the first round of the interview test for the Peyote Guild. The girl begins praying to pass the second test too, saying she'll do anything for it. In the end, she has 2 days to prepare, and they'll form groups to enter a dungeon. Now she raises her arms in excitement, shouting that they're going to drink and celebrate all night, which excites the protagonist as well. We can see her shouting reaches outside the house, which is filled with joy in that moment. Some time passes, and Nara finally lies down, saying she's really happy because life finally seems to make sense. Now the support-type girl truly feels good about everything. Our protagonist notices she's completely drunk at that moment. She then hugs her plush toys, saying it's very soft, and wishes her companion a good night. But the girl seems to be a little thoughtful in that moment after all the excitement. Soon, she calls out to Choi, who quickly asks what it is. Nara asks if she'll do well in the second test from now on. The protagonist quickly assumes she's just fishing for compliments, to which Nara says no. Then the support girl says she doesn't need that after all. There's no way she'd expect something like that from her companion. But Choi replies that she just needs to do what she normally does. Everyone says she does well at her job, and she'll probably pass the second round just like the first, so there's no need to worry so much. The girl is surprised by those words, her cheeks turning pink in that moment. She thanks her with a sweet smile for being there. The two then start a small argument, which slightly annoys Nara, who just wishes her good night. But suddenly, the protagonist's phone vibrates in that moment. She grabs it, annoyed, wondering who would message her at this hour. Is Kim Dong-ju asking if she wants to join Pae-hyuk. The girl is surprised by the unexpected message, being invited to one of the most renowned guilds. She laughs, and we can see that she quickly declines the offer. In the end, he should just take her to secret dungeons, and she doesn't need any kind of guild. Soon, we see the next day with the sun already blazing. The redhead looks heavy-faced in that moment as the situation has become even more delicate. His sister now introduces herself to Miss Choi with a warm smile. The protagonist is surprised by this and wonders who she is. She introduces herself as Kim Dong-ju's sister and says she's heard a lot about her. With a serious expression, the protagonist immediately asks what has been said about her and, more importantly, why his sister is here. Then she notices her companion's face and starts to question what's going on with him. The blonde says it's not just a sibling joke or anything like that. She genuinely wanted to meet her in person. She's the first person ever seen rejecting a personal offer to join the Pae-hyuk Guild. So she's come to make that offer again, this time officially, and asked if she truly doesn't want to join them from now on. The blonde knows full well that this is an offer no hunter would dare refuse, as it comes with benefits most people can't even dream of. In the end, she needs to understand the miracle. It is for an unknown hunter to be invited into such a closed circle. Now all she has to do is go into dungeons with them, and there won't be any problems. After all, she'll be protected by her brother. Then, in a threatening tone, she says it's not every day that a chance like this falls from the sky, and insists she could make a lot of money with it. But she's quickly cut off by our protagonist, who bluntly refuses. That stuns the woman, who is left speechless by what's just been said in front of her. But the redhead already knew that, and in his thoughts, admits the reaction was really exaggerated. The woman then questions why she's saying no, since she might not know about Pae-hyuk. But then she starts to reflect, assuming maybe she doesn't know her personally due to the news constantly covering up her presence. In the end, the other girl might think this offer is just a scam since there's no real reason to refuse it. But our protagonist reveals that she knows her. After all, she's part of the miracle siblings, causing the blonde to be shocked once again. The redhead tries to tell his sister to stop since she's embarrassing him at that moment, and the woman wonders how that's even possible. In the end, there must be some personal reason behind this since he revealed the situation earlier, so he says they should head home because he needs to get out of there immediately. At some point, his lie about dating Hyun Choi could end up being exposed. It's then explained that Yun Kim and Dong-ju Kim are both S-class. It's almost a miracle to have someone at that level who just awakened, so they ended up being called a miracle. Most of the media tends to hide a lot of information about them, and the protagonist then questions why they would come to her at this moment. Suddenly, the sister collapses her knees and covers her face. After all, There's no one else who can form a party with the two of them. Foot is surprised by this and asks what it means since it's quite normal for them to be without other teammates. The redhead quickly says they haven't been able to find anyone to join them, which isn't a huge problem. And he tries to get his sister out of there as quickly as possible. However, the girl gets irritated, saying her brother won't go with her to any more dungeons and ends by telling him not to meet her Danju anymore. Choi immediately understands what that means, and we see the atmosphere growing heavier. She starts to approach, while the boy begins apologizing, saying she doesn't need to listen to this gorilla. But the protagonist with a warm tone simply apologizes at that moment because she has no feelings for him whatsoever, causing a shock in the air. Laughter soon follows, and the boy, who would never date her anyway, admits it was all just a lie. But then our protagonist suddenly felt something like a crack in reality at that moment. She begins to wonder what that feeling could be while the others keep laughing. The redhead then asks what she's staring at so much since she seems completely out of it. But Choi is shocked he didn't feel anything, which confuses him even more. And then the girl's eyes go wide in surprise as she sees it forming. She immediately yells for everyone to look behind him right away because a rift in reality has just opened. In the end, they need to get out of there as fast as possible, since no one knows what that might cause. The redhead asks how she sensed it even before it happened, and she says she doesn't know, so they should just keep running as fast as they can. However, we can see the crack widening more and more as if something's about to emerge into the world. Its shape starts pulling things around it like an accretion disk. The windows of nearby buildings shatter from the pressure being released, and then we see the figure of something enormous emerging as the three of them run away. The girl says it's devouring everything around it, while the redhead says they need to start researching more about what this could be. But for a moment, the girl notices something that draws her attention in that direction. She sees that the rift has now turned completely white, like the entrance to a true dungeon that just opened. Some time passes, and we see the police have arrived at the scene, ordering everyone to step back since the area is extremely dangerous. The redhead says this is completely insane. None of the dungeons they found before compared to this. The girl then asks where they're going now, and it's said that they'll be entering as soon as possible. The young woman is shocked by this since it's a brand new dungeon. No guild has claimed it yet, and the other smiles knowingly like an accomplice. Meanwhile, we can see the boy's sister speaking with a police officer who says they need to get results first. The guy quickly recognized him as a Kyung Song. He promptly greets Kim Dong-ju, who just arrived at the location, and a class individual responsible for monitoring the portals. He is then asked if something is wrong, to which it said they can't enter due to certain requirements. The guy approaches with a smile, questioning why they're being so hasty, to which it's replied that they need to follow procedure. In the end, the blonde announces that it would take too long as the dungeon might collapse and monsters could escape, but it said they need to stay organized. The blonde then states that her guild is coming as fast as possible, so they'll start forming a team immediately. Soon after, someone approaches, a healer from the blonde's guild. She's asked why Yun Yen came there alone. The response comes quickly. Those who were meant to be on the front lines refuse to go in because there are two S-class individuals present, which angers the woman even more. She then walks her brother's side, calling out to the protagonist and asking if she can join them. However, both are shocked when they realize she vanished at that exact moment. The four of them then noticed that the situation just got even worse because our protagonist entered the dungeon while none of them were paying attention. The redhead quickly thinks that the way she's acting makes her seem completely insane. The healer then asks how things are supposed to work now, saying they'll be in trouble with the guild leader if they enter out of order. The blonde immediately questions what she means, saying she'll go in as well if things get worse. The redhead replies, saying the protagonist is a complete idiot and she says she wants to be just like her. She then runs toward the portal, saying she's going in, startling the red-haired man. He grabs his sister, asking the officer to help him while the girl thrashes like a rabid dog. In the end, this is going to take longer than he expected because the protagonist is truly an idiot for doing that and everyone who follows her is the same. Then someone calls out for Hunter Kim Dong-ju, who asks what it's about. The woman takes the lead and asks if Hyun Choi is really a hunter, to which it said yes. The woman quickly understands and nods, though with a bit of concern. But the redhead then asks why she's asking that, and she replies that's nothing important. In the end, everyone is asking about the protagonist, and it's hard to imagine someone actually caring about her. But none of them can enter the dungeon under any circumstances. even with permission of Hyun Choi, classified as a C-class, is seen fighting on the same level as an A rank, she'll be suspected of fraudulently lowering her classification and will be sent to prison. In the end, the girl was extremely reckless for doing that in front of a police officer. Soon, a wound approaches and says the dungeon registration has been documented. Then she adds that it's a bit worse than expected. The portable is B rank. However, the power coming from it indicates an excessive amount of energy leaking out before anyone even stepped in. That's why she urgently contacted the association to ask for permission to enter the dungeon, and the blonde says they need to move quickly or the dungeon might collapse. Then the guy calls out to his sister, who tells him not to speak to her unless it's something important. But the redhead firmly states that the protagonist is in danger right now, so he jumps toward the portal, saying he's going in immediately and will be the first. She immediately follows him into that unknown place. We then see our protagonist walking through the forest, thinking that this is a problem. She has walked for a long time inside this place, but there doesn't seem to be anything here, and she's been waiting for something big to appear. However, something catches her attention in the distance. It appears to be a room that she doesn't recognize. As she gets closer, she murmurs to herself while thinking in that moment. In the end, it seems very old and quite interesting to see, as most portals with such architecture are. If it weren't for this place, she'd almost assume it was human-made, but now she questions where all of this really came from. Now that it comes to mind, the young woman ends up wondering how she was able to know where a dungeon would appear, which seems to be another effect of the ring. But soon, she turns around and realizes that a creature has finally arrived to face her, something she had been expecting for quite some time. We then see a figure resembling an angel as originally described in the Bible. The girl assumes it's one that looks completely grotesque, and its wings seem far too heavy to carry it properly. But soon, we see a sudden burst of pressure being emitted from them. Several crystals begin to form across his body like beams of projected energy. These are then fired in the girl's direction as she's the monster's enemy. She's able to dodge them with extremely high agility. Quickly, she evades the incoming attacks in succession, all while maintaining a serious expression. Then Choi jumps toward the monster in a single leap. The creature is startled by this. After all, the girl truly is powerful. With her fist ready, she declares that the creature won't be able to do anything after what's about to happen. She tells it to die as quickly as possible, then strikes and crushes the eyeball of the winged monster. Even with a large amount of ketchup-like fluid spilling out, the creature still screams in pain at that exact moment. The girl notes how loud it is even without a mouth. It can still produce sound waves somehow. We then see the massive creature finally crash to the ground, breaking everything around it. Hyun Choi assumes that things have gotten a bit quieter now, just like she wanted. However, the monster keeps grinding in pain as if it's not dead yet. The young woman approaches, realizing the creature is still trembling, which could mean it's still alive, stronger than she expected. In the end, that's great after all. It would be a shame if they all died in just one hit. However, Choi starts wondering why there's only one of them, when there should be more in this place. Suddenly, she hears a scream coming from behind at that exact moment. She turns around and says that the time has finally come since the scream served to summon its companions. But as she looks up, she's surprised to see a massive number of angels staring down at her. But she doesn't seem worried because they're extremely easy to eliminate, and now she assumes there are more than she originally thought. All the creatures ready themselves with wing-shake blades. The girl notes that they're all attacking at once, which is completely unfair. After all, she's totally alone. However, the creatures don't seem to care and just charge forward all at once, and she's able to dodge it all without any visible difficulty. She then leaps back in a single jump to create some distance. We see her laughing at the situation since all these skills are being targeted at her, yet they're not homing attacks. In the end, Troy keeps smiling, analyzing the situation as she runs around the area. After the first strike, they need at least 10 seconds to recharge, and that's when they stop attacking. At that moment, one of the creatures is eliminated instantly without any difficulty. Then several others are slashed down by the protagonist's hand all at once. Quickly, she falls to the ground after having taken out a good number of them in just 10 seconds. Even without having any kind of blade on her, Choi admits it's not as inconvenient as she had thought. She stretches a bit and says they'll start again. However, the status window appears in front of her, stating that her stats have increased. She's shocked to see that suddenly. Many of her stat points have gone up. She turns around silently since the situation was truly unexpected, and it had been a long time since she saw something like that. In the end, the reason must be that these creatures are much stronger than the monsters she'd been facing in the illegal dungeons lately. Soon, we see the monsters getting ready to charge at her once more. However, the girl remains silent for a moment as she processes it all. A tougher smile finally returns, realizing she has a chance to gain much more strength thanks to the sheer number present. We can see the healer looking extremely concerned since the hunter just left the area. She then asks if they still don't have permission to enter, to which it said the authorization will come soon. However, the redhead ends up noticing something. It's the hunter Kim Yun who seems different from usual. That the blonde says that her brother actually went to save his girl, and in the end, shows how romantic that truly is. Her expression shifts into a clear threat, saying she'll see it for herself, though they try to stop her. Still, the woman jumps, saying it all sounds way too fun. The officer even tries to stop her, saying things aren't working properly, and the healer apologizes to the authority present. But the blonde says that if anyone asks, her brother will take the blame for going in first, and with that, she says goodbye. We return to inside the portal, where we see a hand in motion. It slices through one of the orbs with ease. This is our protagonist, who continues to grow stronger by eliminating the angel-like flying creatures. We can see her face showing clear satisfaction, as she hasn't felt this way in a long time. As they fall to the ground, she can feel all of her stats increasing more and more. It's as if a well is filling up inside her, and she can feel something different, but the voice inside her head urging her to keep going as fast as possible. After all, it's not enough to end things yet. She accepts that she needs to kill more and more, no matter what happens. One of the creatures tries to strike her from behind, using its wing-shaped blades. Beams of energy shoot toward our protagonist, who is mid-air. She reacts fast enough to use them as a platform and shifts her position in the air, as she thinks she needs more power no matter what it takes. Because once she gets it, whatever is inside her will finally awaken. Gripping a wing, she asks if that eye is really the last one around here. Then, with a psychotic tone, she asks if there are no more of them, because she still wants more bloodshed. The protagonist is clearly torturing it with the wing, while the monster keeps screaming in pain. But she shows no remorse and tells it to keep screaming, because his friends will probably come to save it, no matter what. They both fall to the ground, with the protagonist looking pleased. She tosses the severed limb aside and calls for her status window. In the end, her strength didn't increase as much as she thought, but that must be because of the small number of creatures there. She then glances to the side, noticing something that instantly grabs her attention. She assumes, as expected, there are still plenty left to eliminate. She taps the ground with her foot and says they'll continue. Then she runs excitedly toward the flying creatures. However, suddenly, we see something soaring for the sky. It grabs her attention too, leaving her confused at first, until she realizes they are stone projectiles being launched at the monsters. Their sheer force causes them to fly at extreme speed toward their targets. We could see the monsters freeze in place from the shock of the incoming attack, and then they're taken out in one strike by the impact of the projectile. Most of them that were there to face the protagonist didn't even get a chance to fight back. The girl thinks that this can't be real. After all, she just lost her prey. She quickly turns around asking who the despicable person was that did this, and she realizes it's her red-haired companion, who says she's causing a huge mess. The girl demands to know why he interrupted her, and he says she's making way too much noise and acting completely irrational. In the end, she's supposedly a C-rank hunter, and if she doesn't act like it, she'll probably end up in jail, which she knows. However, it's revealed that the creatures are at least B-rank, which should be impossible to defeat, and the other admits she hadn't noticed. Then the man puts his hand to his face, saying she really needs classification lessons to understand the monsters here. Because of the officer who's present, they now have to stage a scene where the girl was saved by him, which she quickly understands. In the end, she must continue pretending to be a C-rank until the B-rank dungeon is cleared in 3 days, which makes her extremely annoyed. The guy asks what the problem is while examining the item left behind by the creature. Then the redhead says she doesn't need to worry. He hands her something to clean herself up quickly and tells her to trust Nara, who's outside. Then it's said that Song Ae Chung asked about her earlier and wants to know if she did something wrong. Upon hearing that she didn't, the girl explains that it was simply an act of self-defense, surprising the guy, who asks what exactly she did. With a smile, the girl admits that her boyfriend ended up leaving with a pile of thorns in his back, so she gave it all back to him, only 10 times worse, leading to his death. She's asked if anyone else knows about it, to which she says no, since she eliminated everyone else who might have found out. But the guy gets extremely irritated, even messing up his own hair, and sarcastically says he's proud of her. He admits that he never liked her anyway, and was only pretending because he didn't want his sister to find out he was looking for secret dungeons. And at that moment, the blonde was already at the scene and had heard everything that was said. Her hand immediately flew to her brother's face as he stood in front of her. We see both of their bodies hit the ground at once with a powerful impact. The blonde was completely unscathed, but her face was absolutely serious. She held her brother down, keeping him pinned to the ground. The redhead quickly realized the situation had just gotten even worse than expected. The woman immediately called out to Choi, asking about what her brother had said earlier, because she wanted a detailed explanation of what was being discussed between them. We're then shown a past scene where it's announced that the guild leader of Wadian had just arrived. Everyone starts getting excited since he was the first person in Korea to clear a secret dungeon. They all wonder what kind of items he found there, but what they don't know is that it doesn't matter where it came from or anything like that because no one has any real information about secret dungeons. There's only one thing that's certain, and we hear the blonde calling out to that man. It's revealed that the items from that place are extremely special, and the woman then asks whether he killed all his companions, and if he did all of that just to get a few stupid items from the dungeon. He remains calm and serene before turning slightly to the side to look directly at her in that moment, and admits that he committed the act without any remorse. Justice should be obvious. Suddenly, she lunges at him, filled with overwhelming rage. While yelling that he deserves to die for doing something like that, her tear-swollen eyes are revealed. Her fist flew toward the man in front of her, striking him with tremendous force and creating a devastating scene around them. Everyone starts running after all. 2S rank hunters are clashing at that exact moment. But then we see the girl standing still staring at the man. Her fist is beside his head, revealing that she isn't capable of killing him. And it's said that deaths inside dungeons reveal only one truth. With tears falling down his face, she asks why he did it. He could have gotten everyone out, but in the end, the weakest don't deserve to live. And then she asks if it was because she left Huijin, to which the man just closes his eyes and tells her to think whatever she wants. That's the only thing she can do from now on. We then return to the current moment where an explanation is being demanded, because there must be a reason why he was searching for secret dungeons with his sister. Our protagonist quickly thinks that Kim Dong-ju is being suppressed, which means there must be a difference between those within S rank. But what the woman is truly interested in is the part where she calls herself a real killer. The other girl then figures that must be the reason why he seems so restless next to his sister, and says it's really unfair to be labeled like that. Because dying in a dungeon is basically a natural part of daily life. Though her thoughts, she admits she's likely experienced death countless times. And for that reason, she questions why the woman is so sensitive about something that should be routine by now. Then Choi provocatively remarks that she must have seen someone die in a dungeon to be that resentful. The woman then stared at her seriously, asking if that's how she's planning to play this game. The redhead quickly wonders why Hyun Choi is provoking her like that, since there's no guarantee she'll be able to handle what's coming next. Then the blonde declares that the other girl has no complaints left to make from that point on. So she could kill her without any remorse since there's nothing she can use to defend herself. And our protagonist doesn't seem even a little surprised by that and simply says she can try to kill her if she can. In the end, Shui is curious because she wants to know just how powerful this person really is. But suddenly, we see the ground just broke apart at that moment because the woman realizes her brother's figure has just disappeared and been buried underground. She looks around for a moment, then processes and understands the situation. A hole was made so he could escape that way, and she questions how her brother dares to run away like that when he's right next to her. From underground, the man tells his new man to calm down a little after all. She's putting way too much pressure on the people around her, which is really embarrassing for him. Then the protagonist says he's rising out of the ground like an actual zombie, and he's told to shut up. Right after, he adds that in any case, there's no need to provoke her since she's clearly crazy as anyone can see. But Choi gets irritated by that and bites the guy's hand, asking who this idiot thinks he's calling crazy. Still, a blonde seems uneasy and tells Kim Dong-ju to take a step away from that woman. After all, from what she sees, her brother is the real crazy one for being close to someone who doesn't even care about killing and keeps going into dungeons with her. In the end, it's clear that the girl is using him for some other purpose. The redhead quickly tells her to listen for a moment since he was the one who asked for help, because if they find the item, they can become more powerful. But the blonde scolds him right away saying she doesn't need that kind of thing. In the end, those dungeons are just illusions. Many hunters have died just trying to find the items he's talking about. He needs to wake up to reality because there are other ways to become stronger besides searching for those places. After all, even she helped him become stronger from the very beginning. Our protagonist is surprised by that, realizing there are other ways to increase one's stats. But she wonders if Kim Dong-ju wasn't originally in S rank, since according to Nara, he awakened that way. And we see that she notices an attack coming toward her at that exact moment. But she couldn't dodge it completely since the blonde was already attacking with her sword. We then see ketchup flying off her face at that exact moment. The guy is shocked by the scene unfolding right in front of him. He screams his companion's name as he realizes the situation just escalated into something worse. But the blonde says he C ranks shouldn't be so confident, because inside a dungeon, none of that matters. Then we cut to the outside where we see the portal. The healer is outside, clearly tense about the situation, and the officer is visibly even more anxious, wanting to go in to see what's happening. In the end, the girl can barely breathe after all. They still haven't received permission to enter. But the agent quickly approaches, calling for Officer Song A-kyung, then announces that the raid clearance has just arrived. Back inside the portal, the redhead realizes his friend is more injured than he thought, but his sister says they'll clean out the dungeon as quickly as possible. However, he asks what's going to happen to his injured companion, to which it's said that if she's the weak type who dies from this, then it doesn't matter. Weak people are the ones who go looking for these hidden places, and the redhead immediately questions what's being said right in front of him at that moment. Ben admits that it's a bit harsh to say that out loud in front of her, but is told it's just the truth. In the end, the blonde can give exactly what's needed, and you should understand that. After all, she's the one who made him as strong as he is today. So the redhead replies that he understands that too. After all, that's why she left the Huijin Guild. Then see that 12 years ago, the first dungeon break occurred in Korea, resulting in over 10,000 deaths caused by the monsters. Among them were the relatives of those two siblings who were there. At one point, the sister became the head of the family for being the eldest, and the young boy asked what they were going to do. But all he saw was the look of someone completely hopeless in the end. After all, she had to be so young and still carry a massive weight on her shoulders at only 16 years old. But something ended up happening, her awakening as an S rank, which left everyone excited. The newspapers reported that she was the fourth person in Korea to awaken at that level and was currently being trained in the most effective way possible. However, people's attention was drawn to something else. They were wondering about her younger brother and speculating that this could be appearance of something unprecedented. Since his awakening could be a miracle, they assumed that if he became an S rank, they could be called the miracle siblings. Soon, we see sometime later in a certain place where the boy is playing a soccer match. He charged toward the goal with full force, and at that moment, something awakened within him that caused the ball to shoot forward at an astonishing speed, tearing through the net and slamming into the wall, embedding itself into the rock as if it were a true shot from a high-caliber weapon. Everyone was amazed, and it was soon announced that he had awakened as a C-rank hunter. Then sometime later, we see him calling out to his sister, asking why she left the Huijin Guild. He then asked why she joined Pei-yuk, saying they were passing up a great opportunity. But the blonde simply ignored him, saying he arrived just in time and told him to eat but was in the box. He then saw there was a mana stone and asked why he was being given that. She said it was something quite rare and even had the ability to increase his stats if he ate one, and he shouldn't tell anyone. He got excited and asked if he could really have it, and she told him to eat it as fast as possible. She got it just for him. In the end, it was hard to bring it there, but she promised to get several more. And in exchange, the boy should not report his awakening until he reaches S rank. That surprisingly annoyed him, and he asked how he was supposed to keep hiding it. Since he wants to train and take on missions properly, he was told that it was a condition for entering Pei-yuk. In the end, only people who are useful can obtain that kind of mana stone, and she had heard they came from a secret dungeon under their control. Currently, Dong-ju is C rank, and this is his chance to become someone incredibly powerful, which is a great opportunity. But the boy still remains skeptical after all. He didn't need that since he believed he could become a strong hunter without it. The blonde claimed he would end up dying because he was currently too weak and said if he wasn't strong, he'd lose everything. She explained that this was the reason their father and mother died. Both were too weak for this world. In the end, if he doesn't want to die, he has to become more than he is now. And she promised to make sure that happens for him, then asked if he understood because she loves him deeply and that's why she's making this sacrifice. The boy immediately understood and agreed to do it because it didn't matter if his sister was right or wrong, he had no choice. Then we see a waterfall of blood forming. His body was trembling after devouring that man a stone. But in front of him, a hand stretched out as if calling for his attention. His sister knelt in front of him and quickly wanted to check his status. She looked at him seriously, wondering if he had gotten stronger. And the moment she saw his new B rank status, Kim Eun smiled brightly. She hugged him and said he had done a good job after all. No matter what happens, he just has to get stronger. The boy understood that because if he couldn't, he'd be nothing in this life. In the end, he couldn't let any other desire outweigh the desire to become stronger. The blonde then got excited that he understood and said they would leave that girl behind. But the redhead stayed silent once again, as if he were thinking about the words from his past. While stretching, Yen states that they should clear out the monsters before the boss, and since it's been a long time since they last competed, the redhead asks if she's aware of that. The blonde quickly replies that he must be hunting dungeons because he was influenced by that young woman, and in the end, it was said Dongju would grow stronger because of it. But the redhead says it was actually his sister who wanted him to become stronger, and yet she stopped looking for those dungeons. She then explains that this isn't the kind of place you go just to get stronger. And what kind of sister would she be if she stood by watching her brother walk toward death? And the redhead could only smile in that moment after all. If you're not strong enough, you lose everything, which means she still thinks he's weak. But now he's done caring about that way of thinking from her, because no matter how strong he becomes, she'll always think he's weak. And because of that, if she's going to keep thinking like that, then she can leave whenever she wants, because whether he lives or dies, he's going to keep going. Suddenly, the blonde pulls her sword at that exact moment. She then asks if he's really going to keep looking for secret dungeons, to which he confidently replies yes, and says that if she wants, he'll tell her all about it once he gets back from one. But his sister immediately leaves toward him, her sword ready to kill. She assumes you must not care about his life at all if he's so willing to die one way or another, but in the end, the result will be the same. However, the boy responds that he doesn't plan to let himself die in a place like that, not now. Then the rocks around him begin to shift and rise into the sky, launch toward his sister, who watches it all from above. In the end, she admits that this is a bit troublesome after all. Still, all she has to do is completely crush that attack, which has no effect on her anyway. The redhead thinks to himself that his sister is all brute strength and no brains, and he'll have to stall a bit longer, prompting the protagonist to ask why. He quickly calls her an idiot because they need to wait for the other hunters to heal her, but the girl says she's already fine, actually. Not realizing the situation, the redhead ends up cursing and saying this isn't what it looks like, but then notices something that catches his attention. The girl begins standing up, saying she'll get up now and handle this situation. Then she thanks him because thanks to her friend, she was able to get good rest, and his sister seems to be very angry. The redhead tells her to wait a second and asks how she's so fine like this. But the girl just stretches at that moment without any difficulty at all. Her body then begins to relax as if it had been waiting for this. She declares that now they're going to begin this fight all over again, the one that's been expected for a while. Immediately, the redhead tries calling out to Hyun Choi, who asks what he wants. He asks how much of that she heard just now, to which she replies that she heard the part where he called his sister crazy, didn't understand most of the rest, but says it was good entertainment, at least. She then recalls his words, saying he's tired of how she sees him, because no matter how strong he becomes, she always thinks he's fragile. And that's why from now on, she can just leave because she clearly doesn't care if her brother lives or dies. Danju is hit with a harsh reality check in that moment, like the world just collapsed around him. He shouts that she heard everything from the start. We're told he was completely embarrassed on his own. We then flashed back to a few seconds earlier when the stones were flying in that direction. In the end, if you fall back, then you're no better than dead, and that's what happened to their parents and friends. She questions if her brother still can't understand that since she did everything she could to keep him from suffering the same fate, and then wonders why he looks so sad. In the end, it seems she's saying she'd rather choose a death by her own terms. And if he's not that obsessed with that woman, then why does he keep doing this kind of thing? It's still a mystery to her. And if he's really planning to walk into death by seeking his secret dungeon, then she has no other choice, besides getting him out of there as quickly as possible, so that at the very least she can recover his body and give him a proper funeral instead of letting it be devoured by the creatures. Next, we see a massive explosion occur at that very moment, until she's caught off guard by the sound of her brother's scream, grabbing her attention. She wonders if he ended up getting seriously hurt, but in the end, she can't see anything because of the thick curtain of smoke. She falls to the ground questioning what just happened to her to make her scream like that so suddenly. But as she gets closer, something enters her field of vision and startles her. It's our protagonist now questioning if she came down there on her own while internally wondering what's going on. Our girl promptly states that she was literally thinking about how to get the other one to come down, and the other insists it's impossible for her to be standing. Even with her energy drain, that attack should have been lethal for someone of rank C, but she's completely fine. She then tries to check the girl's status, but realizes it's impossible to do so even with her S rank level. The blonde can only ask herself if Choi is also classified as an S-class individual, but admits that even that level of power wouldn't be enough. She says the girl must be using some item to hide her true power, and realistically, she's probably just a rank, not much more than that. The redhead steps forward, telling her to step aside since he'll handle the situation, but she says she can help. However, her companion quickly says this is his fight, so she should leave, to which the protagonist responds that she's stuck there with him. Still, the blonde remains skeptical, with a sharp gaze saying the protagonist must have a reason for seeking a secret dungeon. The girl then announces that the fight is about to begin. The redhead even tries to call out to her, but in a moment, she's already face to face with the enemy. She prepares a punch, telling her not to freeze like an idiot in the middle of the battlefield. And as her fist moves forward, it's clear the sister doesn't look surprised at all by the incoming attack. In the end, this woman was supposed to be a rank C until recently, but somehow her stats have increased at an alarming rate, or maybe her regeneration speed is bizarre even for her own attacks. This kind of power doesn't come just from awakening. At the moment her fist stops right in front of her, the blonde thinks there's only one possible explanation, that the girl must have entered a secret dungeon, and then pushes her back with a mysterious force. She turns her gaze in that direction, trying to see what's pulling her, but it was just a simple energy force throwing her toward a nearby rock. The redhead promptly saw his friend crash hard against the wall and tried calling out her name once again. She then starts coughing, wondering what kind of ability this is. In the end, Trey didn't notice anything coming her way. She looks forward feeling as if something grabbed her from behind until that same sensation returns, now from above, breaking the area around her and slamming her into the ground at that exact moment. She's being pulled downward as if by the gravity of another planet, even shocked that the woman can change the direction of force. As she looks ahead, our protagonist realizes it's getting harder to breathe and she won't be able to stay conscious. Now she can barely move, as if her entire skeleton is being crushed downward. She compares it to a mountain smashing her tiny body at that exact moment. The blonde says she expected too much from her in the end, that she really acted like she had so much strength. And even with those dungeon items helping her, they won't make any difference. Our protagonist quickly tries to stand up, telling the woman to watch her mouth because that annoying pressure can be overcome if she starts applying just a bit more strength. But the woman tells her to stay down because if she pushes too hard, something bad is going to happen. However, our protagonist doesn't listen, and her arm ends up being broken at that exact moment. Soon, we hear a scream of pain echoing through the area, while the woman says she warned her just a little too late. But we quickly see our protagonist regenerating, her breathing still heavy. The woman remarks that she healed pretty fast and says she can keep doing that, but that's the only thing she'll be able to do. Next, the redhead calls her name, but his sister tells him not to go near her under any circumstances. The guy says that's enough. This won't change her mind if she keeps going. But the woman insists she'll continue crushing her until she can't be saved anymore. In the end, you should forget about this whole idea of hunting secret dungeons, and so Young will do him the favor of letting the protagonist leave there alive. He now has to make a choice, which shocks his brother even more, leaving him paralyzed by it. The blonde puts her hand on her forehead and says he doesn't need to worry. After all, she's the only one helping him grow stronger all this time, because the redhead would have died a long time ago if he had continued on his own. In the end, he's too weak to survive in this world, and even now, he doesn't have the strength to beat her in a real fight. Then the man asks if she's finished rambling with that mouth of hers. At that moment, the protagonist starts laughing, saying that's exactly what people say for your own good in their twisted logic. She then remembers the words of her boyfriend, saying he was doing all of this for her. If it weren't for him, the protagonist would have been dead a long time ago. And so she wondered if he could understand everything that was being done in that moment. The truth was that the lies kept being used as if they were genuine, just to help others. She then declares that no one believes in that kind of garbage anymore, because the blonde is just manipulating people however she wants, thinking she's got the guts to take care of their lives. Then she says Kim Dong-ju can do whatever he wants, since he said he could become stronger in his own way. So now she says she'll be one helping him because the two of them are practically the same in their convictions. And she tells Kim to stay by her side because she'll show him how things are really done. We now cut to another part of the portal where someone asked the officer where everyone is and had said they need to find them quickly. The healer says Kim Dong-ju seemed really cool earlier since he went in there without hesitation just to save the woman. In the end, she's thinking that the mess happening in Pahia won't be that big of a problem after all, that Hunter is extremely popular with the girls. But suddenly, something draws her attention upward. She asks if the sky has always looked so red like that, to which she's told no. And the redhead realizes it might be a Sayama dungeon break. The officer understands that it's a strong possibility, and that's why they need to clear the area as quickly as possible. We then return to where our protagonist is, and the stones around her are beginning to crack. Right now, we see that her body is creaking more and more due to the immense pressure being applied. The redhead calls out to her, telling her to stop because if she keeps going, she'll die. The blonde asks what this amateur is trying to do since, in that condition, she can't even move. However, something makes her suddenly widen her eyes because the scream ability was just activated, creating a shockwave. Quickly covers one ear, wondering what that was. It sounds like a beast growling while scratching its own throat with its claws. The redhead beside her is clearly struggling to endure it, and he thinks Xian Choi is stronger now than she was before, back when they were in the black market. Even stronger than before they entered this dungeon, and he wonders how her stats could have increased so much in such a short amount of time. Suddenly, Blonde hears a distorted scream from the sky. A huge number of monsters appear all at once, and she realizes it must be a skill that lures enemies. It said that she really does have talent after all, which is a shame. Because if it weren't for her brother, they might have had a good relationship. But she realizes the situation is more serious than she initially thought. After all, judging by the numbers, everyone seems to be planning to attack her in order to escape her ability. However, she knows that they're all just rank C, which isn't impressive, and she questions whether she should go look for the boss herself. Our protagonist appears quite impatient while they try to stop her using all those monsters. She then smiles, saying it's fine because this way, she can hunt as many as she wants. Soon, the creatures began preparing their attacks and letting out cries in that moment, and the blonde noticed that all those wings were beginning to glow as if they were weapons. Quickly, the first creature fired its glowing feathers in that direction, and all the other angels followed the same instinct to fire at their main target. Completely thrilled, the warriors started running, saying it had been a long time since she had a fight like this. But just as the attacks were getting close, something suddenly caught her attention, and she instantly recognized something that made her freeze in that moment. Because those bastards weren't shooting at her, but in another direction. That being the place where our protagonist currently was as she shouted, the blonde was shocked by that and widened her eyes once more, and she wondered why all the attacks were heading in that direction at that exact moment. In the end, the scene was completely incomprehensible. The girl lying there while the attacks came toward her, because she was drawing all the attacks to take them with her own body. And so we can clearly see the blades finally reaching that spot, soon striking the ground and hitting her all at once. The woman thought she was trying to break the ground and that this was the only way to escape her ability. And we can clearly see that Choi wasn't left unscathed either, since many parts of her body were being hit at that moment. Her entire body continued to be pierced by those spears of light coming from all directions. Then a ketchup-like bloodbath began at that exact moment as she raised her hand. The blonde thought that even though her regeneration was strong, she should still be feeling pain. But what kind of life had she endured to make such a reckless decision without hesitation? However, even so, they would still be unable to destroy her ability because no matter how many there were, a rank C is still just that. But suddenly, her eyes widened in that moment. Then she wondered if she had made a mistake as she watched a cloud of smoke form. We can see what was left of the girl's arm as she admitted it hurt a lot. However, it still wasn't enough to free her from that gravity prison. So with clenched teeth, she admitted that with this amount of power, it still wouldn't be enough to do anything. She then looked up, questioning what those creatures were doing, and gave a mental order for them to attack harder and immediately. Thus, we can see that the mind control target had already been confirmed. Soon, the spears began turning red due to the increase in power, as the system informed that a blessing had been applied. The entire scene turned red as the girl grew serious, her gaze fixed ahead, like a true predator about to be unleashed. Then the massive explosion erupted on the spot with an extremely powerful strike. The blonde watched all of it from a distance, paralyzed in that moment. Looking around, she realized the power of that last attack had been much greater. and as she looked up, she saw that one of the creatures had grown even stronger than before and had now reached rank A. She was stunned by that, as it shouldn't be possible for its level to increase so suddenly. But amid the smoke, we could see something forming. It was our protagonist with a sharper gaze than ever. She then advanced forward, her body fully regenerated. And with a step, she admitted she thought she was going to die because of her. Quickly, Yuna asked what kind of woman she was to do something like that. But the protagonist just laughed, saying she didn't know either, but she was certain of one thing, that she was going to die here and now. Because there's no way a rank as body could survive with that many spears coming at it. And so we see that both of them had just taken massive damage from the attacks. Kim Dong-ju, at that moment, was paralyzed, and he stayed quiet, questioning what was happening. All the creatures continued attacking the two women. He wondered if his sister was really being pushed to her limits, especially coming from someone like our protagonist, who was only ranked A. Thus, all the creatures kept advancing, while he couldn't believe this was actually happening. Since she was using her own body as bait to draw the attacks toward her, which shouldn't even be considered a way for a human to fight, our protagonist then threw a punch that landed directly on the blonde's face. It made her grit her teeth in pain, as we could see several holes in her body. Our protagonist jumped toward her again, ready to continue the fight while laughing warmly with excitement over it. Quickly, a series of blows began as she appeared to be in ecstasy from the battle. The blonde opened her eyes while defending herself, saying the other was completely insane. And then we saw the swing of a sword used in that very moment, cutting our protagonist's body in half along with her hand. She immediately began coughing up what looked like ketchup. Her body floated while the woman below laughed in triumph, for she had managed to catch her off guard just as planned. However, our protagonist remained silent even while suspended in the air, only to smile, saying she had been holding back the whole time, which made everything even funnier. And then she used her scream ability again, startling the blonde. All the creatures began to scream as they attacked once more. The one admitted she had let her guard down, though she hadn't expected the other to be able to use any ability in that state. Thus, swinging her sword, the warrior began dodging the blows while admitting it never ended. Normally, she'd enjoy wiping out all the creatures, but now she was getting annoyed because of it. Then suddenly, our protagonist appeared, asking if the other had waited long. Yen looked back, asking if even that kind of injury was healed by her ability. Our protagonist charged at her again with her fist, and just like that, the ketchup went flying. Sometime later, we see her remains falling to the ground, breathing heavily. She couldn't believe she'd been launched so far by a single hit that ended up being extremely cowardly, especially coming from someone like the protagonist. And the girl quickly replied that the other was still alive in the end. The blonde realized she was even bolder and crazier than she had imagined, while her opponent admitted that really was the body of an S rank. However, even with part of her head missing, our protagonist admitted she had taken many hits, but still managed to survive. The older woman said to take a look at her own body before talking about others, and asked how she wasn't dead. And the girl then paused for a moment to think. She then acknowledged that it's not really possible for someone not to die after all. She'd already died once before. The blonde quickly assumed that this was true immortality. She had heard that items like that are hard to come by and usually can only be used once, which the girl found quite interesting. However, those who use them often throw their lives away just like she did, meaning the protagonist is completely insane. And so the young woman decided to ask what she was really aiming for with all this. But the real issue is that she's too dangerous to be near her brother, while inwardly admitting she can't move her body. Choi then said she had a massive brother complex, and because of that, the redhead would never be able to date anyone. Not that she cared. But the real problem is that her dear brother's life is currently at risk. And for that reason, she would have to use something she never wanted to from the beginning. No matter what, she would make sure to kill our protagonist right then and there. The rocks around her began to float, a clear sign of what was coming. She declared that Kim Dong-ju should stay away from her, since she had no intention of letting him die along with this fight. The man quickly shouted that her body wouldn't hold out, but the protagonist calmly stated that she didn't need to act so intensely. After all, she couldn't even move her arm. All the angels watched from a distance at that very moment, while the protagonist admitted there would be no problem moving forward, because this time, she would make sure to kill that hunter no matter what. With an incredibly fast stomp, the girl launched herself. While her blue aura radiated through the air, signaling the use of her ability, the screen was used once again as she ran toward her opponent. All the angels began advancing and attacking the already injured blonde. It is said there is a type of gravity that erases everything from existence, this being the 0 point. She truly didn't want to use that ability, but with no other ideas, she asked the protagonist to come as fast as possible, because she's about to erase her existence. However, it's clear that her limbs still hurts despite everything. In the end, the wounds are too severe, and the risk is still too high to take lightly. So she starts forcing her body even further in order to lift that sphere that had formed in her hand above her head. Jan admits she's going to die either way, so she'll take all the monsters down with her. Thus, the creatures began being pulled into the mass field at that moment. The protagonist watched that, impressed, and then started laughing, saying she's sucking at everything around her. What a cool skill. Soon, we could see that around the woman, the creatures began to distort due to spaghettification. Hoi kept laughing, saying she was going a bit too far since she really would die if she went through with that. But the woman kept laughing. After all, she was going to die anyway, so at least she would leave a little gift for someone like the protagonist. The girl quickly took a step forward with absolute confidence, then jumped toward the sphere, saying she was going to love this. In the end, what we can see is that her smile never faded, not for a moment, because she was genuinely thrilled about what was coming. But the blonde said she was completely insane, though she might as well keep laughing while she could, because soon, every trace of her existence would be erased by that imaginary mass. Then we shift to the outside where someone is typing on a keyboard. The woman questioned what was going on, because what was supposed to be a rank B dungeon was now escalating to a much higher level. In the end, she realized it a bit too late, and at this rate, the dimension might start collapsing at any moment. The woman quickly called the HQ responsible for dungeons and said she was requesting an immediate evacuation. We then returned to the interior, where the black hole now has a reddish hue. The entire sky within that dimension is now completely agitated and collapsing. The red-haired man quickly began noticing everything around him, realizing the situation was worse than expected. Because the dungeon was beginning to break apart at that moment, the sky quickly cracked due to the immense amount of energy, and a burst of light appeared in the sky, an exit from monsters opened by the energy of a single hunter. We returned to the policewoman who was running, and said she's feeling that something is off as even breathing has become difficult. Above the sky, it's visible that monsters are being pulled in one direction as if being dragged. In the end, this was supposed to be a level B dungeon, but all the others were supposed to be just rank C monsters. Even so, the woman can't even see their levels, which means something strange is happening right at that moment. She then becomes frightened, not understanding the scene in front of her, because it's clear that two people are dueling while Kim Dong-ju watches. She wonders how Kim Choi, a rank C hunter, is managing to hold her own and fight against Yun Han, who is rank S. In the end, the girl may be someone not listed in the current hunter records. And if that's really the issue, then she needs to capture the protagonist, but that would be impossible with the two of them battling at full power. If this continues, it's very likely the dungeon will break and many people will die, so it must be stopped. Even if the police officer dies in the process because of it, the red-haired man quickly looked to the side, realizing the situation had just gotten even worse. Since Officer Song Akayon had just arrived, he told her to wait as things were getting out of hand, even for her. However, she went ahead and said their names while announcing that due to their energy, the dungeon was becoming destabilized. Therefore, her ability was being activated at that exact moment. Everyone there would receive an immediate downgrade to rank C. The red-haired man was the first to feel the effect, which made his body heavy. The protagonist and the blonde felt it too, making both of them stop. Then the woman's stomach burst due to the wound, and the other injuries across her body made her feel an all-consuming, agonizing pain. She quickly questioned why she was feeling so many injuries all at once. Soon, the status window opened, revealing that she had taken a debuff. Her vision began to fade as she admitted that the skill was draining her strength, and the black hole that was above the sky now began to disappear. Both energies started to unravel due to the woman's collapse at that moment, and so she lay in the middle of a pool of ketchup on the ground. Soon, the turbulent sky began to calm and return to its blue hue. It is said that this is a very powerful ability, but the damage also rebounds to its user, who now suffers from some permanent wounds. She acknowledges that the mana in the area has stabilized and that she suffered greatly from it, but honestly, it's a miracle. She's still alive. She then asked Hyen-soo to begin treating the S-rank hunter as quickly as possible. The woman, walking, wondered if she was okay because from a distance, she looked terribly injured. And as she approached, she realized the situation was even worse than she had imagined. Her condition is very critical as there are numerous wounds on her body, and her heart and lungs are at risk. It's normal for hunters to be dead in this state, but she's holding on remarkably well with the body of a C rank. At that moment, her staff began to glow, and Yun-Soo ended up saying it would take some time to heal the internal injuries, so she would begin with emergency treatment. But as soon as it started, visible improvement in the wounds could be seen. She also noticed this and said she would be able to heal her organs if it continued. However, looking ahead, she became confused at that moment because that girl who had been fighting was now standing right in front of her. And so she asked herself how she was completely unscathed after all that. She questioned why she was there since it was the protagonist who had caused all these injuries, so she should stay away immediately. But Choi remained silent as she observed her opponent and then brought her foot closer, saying that she was still breathing. The blonde's body remained motionless without any reaction. The redhead even tried to stop her, but she couldn't because something faster ended up pushing her out of the way at that moment. Our protagonist was surprised by this action and wondered where she went after that hit, and she admitted that none of it made sense anyway because he shouldn't let her go as he was trying to escape his sister's shadow. She then called out the name of the redhead who was holding the woman's body. Quickly, Kim Dong-ju told Yun-Soo to take care of his sister. The protagonist asked why he was choosing her once again, since his sister was finally leaving, which would allow him to gain his freedom. So why not accept that? But it was said that it wasn't a matter of choice because no one would let a family member be killed in front of them. In the end, the redhead admitted that he simply couldn't do that, and the protagonist immediately stated that he should have said that much earlier. After all, she truly wanted to set him free. Then Dong-ju decided to ask what she meant by that. Must he be tired of his current situation, where people always say they're doing things for his own good? But the worst part is that they make you believe it too. In the end, she only understood that after dying and killing countless times, freedom is something magical and unique. Can only be obtained when you step over someone yourself, and that's what she want her friend to feel. The true liberation that she once experienced. In the end, Dong-ju is still chained to be sister, and should try to break that chain to finally achieve the long dream freedom. Then Choi understood that it must be hard to grasp at first, but once it's close, everything becomes clearer. This is his real chance to finally gain his freedom. With a melancholic tone, she admitted that the young man is capable of doing it, and she stated clearly that she will help him no matter what it takes.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.